to the Senate chambers after this short recess. I trust that the break has afforded each and every one of us the opportunity to cast our minds back over the last 3 years, to take stock and assess our performance thus far, and to better plot the way forward as we enter and embark on the last lap of the 8th Senate. As you all know, this Senate clocked its 3rd anniversary while we're on break, and given the somber mood of the nation, there was no great celebration. Nonetheless, we had the occasion to get an overview of the considerable achievement of the Senate since its inauguration on June 9, 2015. Indeed, we have come a long way. We have set a new bar in the legislative history of this country. We have passed over 213 bills in this period, surpassing in 3 years the records of the entire 4-year terms of every previous Senate. This is no mean feat, and as we hit the home run, therefore, it's important we do not backpedal or slow down. We must intensify our efforts towards doing all that we have sworn to do for the electorate that voted us as their representatives. Distinguished colleagues, you agree with me when I say that the 8th Senate achievement would not have been possible without the support of Nigerians. They gave us a mandate, they trusted us to deliver. The people's confidence in us has been a boon to all our endeavors in this hallowed chamber, and has put a spring in our steps with regard to all legislative activities. With the backing of the people, we've been able to introduce a lot of landmark legislation that has helped in reboosting and recovering the economy, from CAMA to securities transactions to credit bureau reporting, all those that have helped in upgrading Nigeria's ranking in the ease of doing business. Other landmark economic bills, including the Nigerian Railway Authority, Nigerian Transport Commission Bill, also the support in the fight against corruption, the passage of bills on mutual assistance, criminal matters bill, witness protection bill, whistleblower protection bill, and recently the Federal Audit Service Commission bill. You will recall that it was the quick intervention of the 8th National Assembly through the passage of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit Bill that saved Nigeria from being expelled from the global community of the Egmont Group. It was in the life of this Senate that we finally split the atom of the once intractable petroleum industry bill after almost 2 decades in the legislative wilderness. We split the bill into 4 manageable parts, and not only have we passed first the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, we have gone midway in the work on the remaining 3 bills, the administrative, fiscal, and host community components, which have already been taken up at public hearing stage. The clock is ticking, and we must ensure that we conclude work on the remaining PI bills as soon as possible. Nigerians deserve no less. On our many interventions over the last 3 years, we have shown that we're a Senate that is responsive to the needs of the people. This is observable in our constitutional amendment bills that we have passed, particularly among this is Not Too Young to Run bill, which received presidential assent on May 31st, 2018, to the wide jubilation around the country. Due to the momentous generation shift is expected to trigger in national leadership. A youth-oriented focus has similarly informed our engagement with relevant organizations on youth development. We have worked hard to engage and see how we can create more jobs through this. As a people-oriented Senate, we have made major interventions on drug abuse epidemic affecting our communities, especially the young demographics. In doing so, we have sparked a national debate about drug abuse. We have drafted 2 bills that will be coming before us to tackle the problem, namely Drug Control Bill and Mental Health Bill. It is incumbent on us to introduce these bills for legislative process and for us to pass without delay. As among our most transformative achievements, my distinguished colleagues, is a step that we have taken to make health care a right of Nigerians and to put it within the reach of our entire population of 180 million people. This we have done through the setting aside of 1% of the Consolidated Revenue Fund to establish basic healthcare fund in the just concluded 2018 budget. This is grounded on our belief that all Nigerians, no matter their economic status, deserve access to qualitative and affordable healthcare to make for a stronger Nigeria with healthy and vibrant citizens. Distinguished colleagues, the foregoing represents some of the recap of the journey so far, and also in a sense map out the challenges ahead of us, which we must face head-on. We are resuming plenary today under a pall of national anxiety and apprehension over the state of insecurity in the country. We have been alarmed at the so many senseless killings of Nigerians, with a high number of casualties in Plateau State recently. In the wake of the atrocity, I led a Senate delegation to pay a condolence visit to the governor of Plateau State to commiserate with the people of the state. As always, our sympathies are with those who have lost loved ones in this act of barbarity, and we affirm our commitment to ensure peace and security in our country. As you all know, we held the Security Summit some months back, specifically to address the rising security and work out strategies in collaboration with security agencies in safeguarding Nigerian lives. We have set up the ad hoc committee headed by the leader, and we will take immediately this week the report of that committee and forward the recommendation therewith as may be appropriate. Events have shown that we are right to take this step in response to security challenges facing the nation at this time. Let me reassure Nigerians that we are as concerned as they are in the face of this challenge, and we continue to hold government accountable in order to see to improvement in this area. In addition to the Security Summit earlier mentioned, we held briefings with security chiefs in a bid to better understand the problems, and we have urged them to table their requests for more funds so that the legislature can work on this aspect as well to better equip the security forces to protect lives and property. Through our oversight functions, we can ensure proper utilization of such funds so that we will have full accountability in the management of current security crisis. I must say once again that the responsibility for ensuring security rests with each and every one of us. Issues of criminality are involved in these heinous acts, and the vigilance of our community leaders and average citizens is crucial to assist the security agents to do their job. For us at the Senate, it does seem that these issues are also an indication that we might have to take time again to revisit the issue of state police and other changes that are necessary, and devise a framework for mopping up the millions of light weapons in circulation within our borders. Meanwhile, let me use this opportunity to call for calm on all sides. We have called many times for unity and tolerance. We must remind ourselves of the imperative of peace at this difficult time in our nation. Moderation is needed in our speech and our actions as responsible citizens, even in what we may deem as provocative situations. We must therefore, all of us, be careful of speech that has the potential to heat up the polity and heighten tensions. We implore the media also to exercise great responsibility in their reporting. Fake news can lead to dire consequences that we can't ill afford. Nigeria is the only country we have. Distinguished colleagues, it is clear that internal tensions are also a reflection of the economic condition of our citizenry. We therefore be calling on our stakeholders to fast-track the outstanding economic bills so that we can pass in order to create the environment that will deepen growth and development. To this end, I call on committees that have not reported on their various mandates to quickly do so that we can conclude work on outstanding bills. Happily, the 2018 budget has been signed by the President. We call on the Executive to expedite the release of funds for budget implementation so that our people can begin to see the positive impact in their lives. On our part, as Senate, we must continue to exercise our oversight functions to ensure successful implementation and value for money. Naturally, we will continue to work towards reforming the budget process. Clearly, it is necessary for the Executive and Legislature to work towards a more robust engagement in need for better budget environment. In closing, my distinguished colleagues, let us maintain the standard we have set for this historic 8th Senate, the remaining work on constitutional review process, the pending concurrence issues, unconcluded bills, especially The 3 PIB components outstanding all demand our urgent attention. As we inch closer to the 2019 electioneering period, I urge us not to lose focus. The divided attention of the legislature is not in the interest of the country. We must not be distracted. It is incumbent on us, therefore, not to allow politicking get in the way of our first duty to the Nigerian people as senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. On this note, I charge us all to fasten our seatbelts and power on with the work we have been tasked to do. Posterity is watching, and history will vindicate us if we do it with diligence and in truth. I thank you, my colleagues. Let me also recognize the presence of staff and students of the Army's Children's School, Mambila Barracks, Abuja, staff and students of Kingdom Heritage Model School, Airport Road, Abuja, who are in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings. I wish them a fruitful observations of the Senate proceedings. Leader of the Senate. Point of order, Senator Gamade.
Senator Gamade, no, you, sir. Senator Gamade. After Senator Gamade, you.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Barnabas Gamade. I represent Benue Northeast Senatorial District. Mr. President, sir, my distinguished colleagues, I join Mr. President to welcome all of you, my colleagues, back from this short break that we have had. That was full of problems as indicated by the eloquent speech of the President. I rise under Order 42 and 52 to raise a matter of urgent national importance regarding what I saw this morning. Mr. President, with your permission, may I read the order?
Yeah, go ahead.
Order 42, matter of urgent public importance. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Taking the other two clauses as read. I move to Order 52, and this is dispensing with notice. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present.
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Gamade did approach me. According to rules of order, I need your leave. We have to take this motion. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Go ahead, Senator Gamade.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the leave that has been given to me to raise this issue on a matter which I believe is very important to all of us as senators. In fact, indeed, all of us as members of the National Assembly. This morning, as I drove to the National Assembly for the resumption of session, I saw a large number of luxurious buses at the entrance of the National Assembly, lined up on the side of the gate, and numerous young people carrying placards condemning the National Assembly in its exercise of constituency projects and demanding that an end must be put to that activity immediately. And Mr. President, I saw from this exercise that whoever is behind this demonstration is very, very poorly informed of what constituency projects represent to a Nigerian legislator. And to give a little background history, when I functioned as the national chairman of the ruling party, I had cause to do several interactive sessions with the caucus of that party in the National Assembly. And it is the introduction of the constituency project phenomena that actually cooled the tempers and made sure that the legislature and the executive branch began to wield an understanding to be able to run the government of this nation properly without rancor. Budgets used to take upwards of 6 months before they were passed because of disagreements. But once this subject was introduced, we noticed that everybody now had a sense of belonging to the national appropriation, and the budget were passed quite on time. And today, one looks at the 100 billion which is approved in the Appropriation Act to cover constituency projects of National Assembly, spanning over 469 constituencies. And this money translates into a paltry 0.4% of the capital budget of the nation. And I cannot see why such a small percentage we dent the program of the ruling party or the program of government in pursuing the national budget. Ministers and other officials of government, including permanent secretaries and director generals of certain corporations, have the privilege of citing many public projects within their areas of jurisdiction, upwards of hundreds of millions and sometimes billions. And we who represent the people are making laws.
Order, please.
We are making laws, and we are also approving certain programs of government sent by executive correspondence. And back home, we have nothing to show for it, except to go with cap in hand to ministers and begin to beg them, when you are making budget, consider a few boreholes or road maintenance or classroom blocks in my constituency. This introduction of constituency projects, therefore, was a very novel idea which has made things much, much better for a legislator to effectively make his presence felt in his constituency. I do know, when I spoke to one of my friends in this chamber who told me that the present president even had the opportunity to commission some of his constituency projects in his constituency. If I remember very well, this is Senator Abu Ibrahim, who had this. He was not a president at that time, and he had the privilege of commissioning these projects. If this activity is well organized and it is being done without rancor, I don't understand why anybody would get up somewhere and begin to do a public demonstration to confuse Nigerians, deceive them, and think that what is happening in constituency project is evil. Mr. President, I do believe that everybody should be made to understand very clearly that constituency project does not put money in the pocket of any legislator. We don't even, in most cases, know the contractors who carry out this project. It is just to ensure that the federal government's activity is felt in every nook and corner of Nigeria. And there is no other person who can bring this to all the constituencies of the nation. There is only one minister in the state. And from sometimes the short-sightedness we see public officers exhibit, he cannot take care of every community within the state that he represents in the Federal Executive Council. So, Mr. President, with all this background information, I like the Senate to approve that we should advise the executive branch of the government of Nigeria that constituency projects will not be discontinued and should not be discontinued. If anything, we should seek to improve on the magnitude of the constituency projects being executed at the moment. I so submit.
I so support.
Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second this motion, ably moved by the former chairman of PDP, National Chairman of PDP, Senator Gamade. Anyway, well, indeed so, let me recognize that we have problems and challenges in Nigeria presently. But I'll limit myself to the one in issue, which is the issue of unemployment and poverty. Arising from this, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, some people have found a way of surviving. And one way of surviving in Abuja is to organize protests. There are people I consider as protest contractors. So
Senator Sonu, can you please take your seat?
Thank you, Mr. President. So what is happening is that some people go to government officials, some governors, who they believe are opposed to the National Assembly, and collect 1,500 each for a particular, for the number of protesters. And when organize these young people, they pay them only 500 naira, as in the case of today, to come and protest in the front of National Assembly. So each time I see them, I feel sorry for this country, that some people are doing things they don't believe in. So the issue of protesting today against constituency project is said to say the least very embarrassing. I come from a constituency in this country where indeed constituency project is working. And I challenge any person who says it's not working to come with any contradiction of what I'm saying. That the constituency projects in my senatorial district has been implemented as much as the allocations were released, and there's no abuse whatsoever. I challenge any person who believes there has been abuse to come up with evidence of such. And I speak for the rest of our colleagues when I say that there are some places in this country that the only filler that they belong to this government, to this country, is the project that are attracted by members of the National Assembly as constituency projects. In 2007, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we reviewed the impact of budgeting on the lives of ordinary people of Nigeria. And we came to the conclusion that right here in Abuja, ministers and heads of parastatals sit in one place and generate what they consider the national budget, without even finding out what are the needs of the people we are governing. And so in discussion with the late President Yaradua, we came up with this idea of ensuring that every member of the National Assembly will contribute to the national budget through the provision of 100 billion, which we now call the constituency project. And this has worked in making sure that schools are rehabilitated, that boreholes are provided, that what electricity is provided, that small roads are done, dams are provided. And this has changed the lives of many people. So I want to thank the late President Yaradua for being proactive, for being on the side of people in approving this money, which has been in the national budget since 2017 now. So, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, any person who is opposed to the projects that are in our various constituencies has considered the person as enemy of the people. And we should never, for any reason, be distracted by this. We should focus on this and ensure that in every budget that this is provided for, because this is the only way we touch the lives of people we represent in this country. No amount of blackmail or intimidation should stop the implementation of constituency projects. I admit, like everything in life, it has been abused in some places and by some people. But that is not to suggest that the benefits have not outnumbered some of the issues we are talking about. So if any person has any particular evidence of an abuse of constituency project, the Senate, indeed National Assembly, is prepared to deal with it. But to say that constituency project should be discontinued, I believe that is the height of insensitivity to the plight of our people. So whoever is collecting money to come to the National Assembly to come and oppose the issue of constituency project is simply wasting his time, because that is not going to happen. So I want to advise my constituents in particular to ignore whatever is happening in Abuja and live peacefully where they are today, because the benefits of constituency project will continue to flow in Enugu West. So I support this motion.
Senator Taidoku.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Achai Aidoku Ali. I represent Kogi East. Mr. President, I join the two earlier speakers in supporting this motion. Mr. President, what is happening today is another attempt by some group of people to set Nigerians against the National Assembly, ignorantly so. Mr. President, the constituency project, like we all know in this National Assembly, before the constituency project, it is very difficult for any member of the National Assembly to point to one project that this is what I have done, I have facilitated for my community. We have suffered that. Before, graciously, like DSP said, President Yaradua now came up with the idea of putting something for various constituencies in this country. Mr. President, anybody that is inciting Nigerians against this project is the enemy of Nigeria. And the unfortunate thing, Mr. President, is that the same Nigerians that are being paid 1,000 or 2,000 naira to come and protest are the same ones that go to make use of these boreholes and this primary school. But unfortunately, they don't know. Ignorance is the problem of the people that is being used. Mr. President, instead of channeling, it takes about 10 million to organize this protest, renting about 20 buses, getting like 200 people, doing t-shirts for them. It will cost per head about 5,000, multiply it by 200, about 10 million wasted for nothing for one day, and putting these people at risk. So it is clear that we send the message that this cannot go anywhere. We're asking somebody, a protester, what is he protesting about? What does he know about the constituency project? He said they told them that it's the money that gave National Assembly members to go home with. You see, they even confused and lied to Nigerians. So, Mr. President, this thing has to stop. Governance is not about blackmailing one arm of the government. We are here to represent the people. This constituency project, it should be on record, Mr. President, that this is the most federal character compliant project of government. This constituency project is the only project of government that is evenly distributed, the amount is equal, the projects are similar, nobody is shortchanged. This is the only federal character in this country, compliance. So why would somebody go against something as noble as this? And to be honest, Mr. President, even funding the constituency project is even a problem. They will fund it 50%. We will have to go and be begging and be conversing for implementing the maximum that they will ever implement, even 70%. So they even lie to Nigerians like this thing is being funded 100%. It is not. So I think we're on our part. We need to educate Nigerians and educate the executive that this project even needs to be funded 100%. And going forward, if it's possible, we should even increase it ×2 so that Nigerians will reap the benefit. This is the only project that people see physical presence of government. Mr. President, you don't even talk of the multiplier effect. For instance, the contractors sinking the borehole in my community, I don't even know him. But when he comes, he hires local people to help him. He pays them. People, some women sell food. They create business for them. So it is not even only the immediate benefit. There is also a multiplier effect, which no government funding is able to trickle down to the people. So I urge my colleagues to jettison this protest, and I would advise that whoever is behind this protest should channel the resources in meaningful, these resources can even sink one borehole in that person's community, so that we don't over-labor Nigerians with unnecessary tension. There is enough division and there's enough tension on the ground in the country, so we don't have to escalate the tension. I thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Marafa.
Thank you, Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, Senator Kabiru Garba Marafa, CEO and representatives of our Central. Mr. President, let me begin by commending our distinguished senior colleague, Senator Barnabas Kamande, for bringing this issue. Mr. President, I see this is a little differently. Today, I think it is time or an opportunity for us to tell Nigerians what is constituency project. Because there is a lot of misinformation around constituency project. And let us face the fact, some of our colleagues contributed to this. I remember a newcomer in the House of Representatives once said that this is what they are collecting, and he made mention of this constituency project as part of the monies that he is collecting. But when he was confronted, he could not explain it. Mr. President, I think simply let Nigerians know what is constituency project. Contrary to what they believe, that senators and members of House of Representatives are allocated money to go and make projects in their constituencies. This is absolutely wrong. Constituency projects, like some of my colleagues said, is one of the most maybe federal character compliant to bring projects or federal projects to address certain specific needs of different Nigerian societies that maybe the budget cannot address. And like my colleague said, I would want to say, instead of protesting outside, let our various constituencies now come identify themselves and say that we are the people of, for example, Zamfara Central, and we are here to oppose constituency project as contained in the national budget because Senator Marafa is not executing it. Like my colleague said, let Nigerians know that a certain amount of money is being given in the budget as with a threshold for each senator to bring projects and domicile the project in the various ministries, departments, or agencies that he feels his community must require. For instance, last year I put some of my money to build stadiums because I want to build sports development in my constituency. And these projects are going on, and they are being awarded by Federal Ministry of Sports or the MPA that I domicile these things to. And I challenge anybody to come and say that what I did in my constituency, for example, which I know all my colleagues have done the same thing, that is not desirable in that constituency, or that it is not done. So what Nigerians need to know is Senator Marafa is not given this amount of money to go and do something. I domicile this project in an MDA. They award the contract. They nominate the contractor. My own is to make sure that whatever I said I want is properly done, because that is part of my work as a legislator, to oversight projects. So I built hospitals, I built dams, I built classrooms, I built stadiums, like I said, and instead of just coming collectively to protest, let us know who are the people protesting, so that we can ask their individual senator that what your people are saying, that this monies that has been allocated to you as constituency project, you have not utilized. But let Nigerians try to be fair to us, that this is not part of what we get paid. It's just like when they calculate our monthly allowance. Mr. President, a simple look at the tabulation, you see severance allowance of about 7 million naira. And this amount is being computed as a monthly allowance to a legislator. I think this is most unfair. Severance allowance, everybody knows, is something that comes once in a lifetime, you know, of maybe a cycle. So for the purpose of the legislators, we have a 4-year life cycle. So at the end of your 4 years, you are entitled to a severance allowance of just 7 million naira, which when weighed against your indebtedness, some people get 1 million, some get 2 million, and that's the end of it. But you see it being computed as what you collect every month. Severance allowance. This is an English term, and I think Nigerians need to treat us with some respect. It is, yes, we are too plenty, we can all not be good, but definitely we cannot all of us be bad. If there is something going on wrong, there are people that can say it is wrong. So this constituency thing, I think for the people that organize whatever it is outside, we need to localize it. Everybody collects this according to state or zones, and every constituency gets its own. So let the people of a particular constituency come and say that, yes, we are disenchanted with this. This is the issue. This one collect the money. We are not collecting it, so that we can have the ministries or MDS to find out that what happened in that constituency. But just giving everybody a bad name, that he or she, because he is a member of House of Reps or Senator, I think it's most unfair and most uncharitable. Mr. President, I so submit. Thank you.
So now, Obina Ogwan.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Obina Ogwa, Ebonyi Central. Mr. President, let me thank you for this opportunity. I'll start by thanking my senior colleagues, those who made sure that this constituency project was introduced. Mr. President, before I came to the Senate here, at my age, the community I come from, there's no way you will find any name of my community in Nigerian budget until I came to this Senate. And the only project you can find that is federal government project in those areas is project I've been able to use my constituency project money to execute. And these projects are awarded by the executive. The contractors, they nominate the contractors. I don't know some of the contractors. I only see them at the site doing the job. Anybody who is going against this constituency project is not just the enemy of progress, but is the enemy of democracy. Because people like me, my constituency for instance, we don't have anybody who can influence any project in Nigerian budget. So even if we don't have, let us make use of this constituency project. Mr. President, I want to tell you that if you go outside there, those people who are protesting, no single soul is from my constituency. So why should they come to protest? It's just people they hired from Meron here, from Mabuchi here, to come and protest. What are they protesting? Are they from Ebonyi Central? Ebonyi Central people are very, in fact, the entire Ebonyi, they are very, very happy and supportive of constituency project. And any attempt to remove it will be resisted. Mr. President, I have to support, let me thank distinguished Senator Gawade. I'm not surprised because he used to be the national chairman of my great party, the PDP, for raising this motion. I whole entire support this motion, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Deputy Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. To me, it is an irony that just last week, someone went on Facebook and said that this Senate allocates 5 billion to my office to go and do constituency project, and I laughed. You see, sir, let us first of all look at the legal status of this constituency project so that people will understand.
Because of the size of this country called Federal Republic of Nigeria, sir, there will never be a time, and I repeat, there will never be a time that Nigeria will produce a president that will know every nook and cranny of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It will never happen, sir. It will not happen. Now, the framers of our constitution, in their wisdom, decided that we will do what is called a federation. And then they argued that, okay, in order to reduce cost, let us constitute a House of Representatives that consists of 360 members and do away with the Senate. Then they converse the argument, okay, let us assume that we at this level believe in ourselves and that we have the capacity to do justice to all Nigerians. Let us equally assume that in our democratic experience we will continue to have good presidents. But some people argue that it will be foolhardy for any country to proceed on the presumption that at each particular time they will have a good president. It is better to make a provision where in the event that we have one bad one, there should be the machinery to control his conduct and behavior. And they said, okay, because our multiplicity, our multi-ethnic configuration, our multi-religious configuration, it is important that you domicile the economy of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the Parliament. So if you now allow the 360 members of the House of Representatives to determine what goes on in this country, if a vote is taken, the northern part of Nigeria will predominantly dominate the political decisions of this country. And that will not be helpful to the growth of our democracy. It was the basis of that led to the establishment of the Senate, in which each state is expected to produce 3 senators based on equality. The House of Representatives were marked based on what they refer to as population and landmass. Mr. President, let me refer you to Section 16 of this Constitution that we have all sworn individually and collectively to uphold, protect, and defend. Section 16 says, the state shall, within the context of the ideal and objectives for which provisions are made in this Constitution, A, harness the resources of the nation and promote national prosperity and efficient and a dynamic and a self-reliant economy. B, sir, which is very important, says, control the national economy in such a manner to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, happiness of every citizen on the basis of social justice, equality of status and opportunity. Mr. President, let me tell you what happened. If Nigerians were satisfied with the military, they would not have opted for democracy. Lieutenant General, President attempted, JT Timbut Husseini, will bear me witness, sir, that serving and retired generals coming from Zuru, where I come from, sir, are over 19. Over 19 as of today, sir. What it means is that we have contributed immensely to the development and safety and security of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, let me lamentably tell you that as at today, apart from Federal Technical College, which still remains in its temporary site for over 22 years, there is no federal presence in this place, sir. Nothing. So, when the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Obasanjo, attended the Millennium Development Goals meeting, it was an enforcement of the provision of Section 16. And it was agreed that there are certain basic things that must be provided in every community in Africa, not only Nigeria, sir. Not only Nigeria. And it was a millennium pursuit because it was a recognition of the fact that there are certain rights that every citizen should possess
What are those rights, sir? What are those rights? Food, shelter, water, and medical facilities. And education. And security. Thank you, sir. Then it was agreed at international level, not in Nigeria, sir, that every president of Africa must make a commitment that in his federal budget, a provision will be made towards meeting this need. That was the agreement, sir. Pursuant to that agreement, the presidents of all the African countries went back to their countries and established what they call Millennium Development Goals. And it was for a specific period, sir. And there was a peer review assessment of the impact of all the governments in respect of this commitment, sir. When we finish, sir, when the period finished, sir, President Buhari himself, sir, accepted that Nigeria will continue to enforce the Sustainable Development Goal, which is an offshoot of the Millennium Development Goal. It has now been localized. So, sir, the question to ask, how are you going to promote national integration, cohesion, and loyalty when, for example, in a constituency like Yawuri, where I represent, who were displaced by government in order to provide light to the entire country by the Kayenji Dam, and put in small holes, not habitable under normal circumstances by citizens. They don't have light, they don't have water, and worst case, sir, except with the intervention that you people assisted us, we didn't even have road. It was just last 2 months that we succeeded in getting the 25-kilometer road to finish from where they stopped to Yawuri. So I get amazed. But one thing I have found out, sir, one thing I have found out, while we tried our best to assist this government, I have found out that even the important achievement that this government has attained has been rubbished by the conduct of few individuals who have no idea about what governance is all about. That's what it is, sir. When we started, you remember, I brought to the notice of this Senate that if you say you are an appointee of government and the position is given to you in trust, my own thinking, and I hope I'm wrong, is that you must use every minute of your time positively to assist the person who appointed you into office. That's my own thinking, sir. I hope I'm wrong. So you are serving under a government, and all you succeed in doing is to be shopping enemies for the government, rubbishing the achievement of the government. Mr. President, I cannot understand. I have evidence to show you that more than 65% of the protests that are organized in front of National Assembly are sponsored by our organ of government. And I said it here, and I gave you evidence. I gave you evidence. The assumption is that some of us came from nowhere. Certainly, sir, you know we came from somewhere. We certainly came from somewhere. And for anybody to think that he can rubbish the institution of the National Assembly, I will always say it. You are not rubbishing leader. You are not rubbishing James Manager. You are not rubbishing Abdullahi Adamu or this. You are rubbishing the entire population of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who have deemed it fit to leave whatever they are doing to approach polling booths and vote people to present them on the floor of the National Assembly. I am angered by this. I feel greatly diminished. And I think that this conduct is unbecoming of any responsible citizen who has taken appointment under this government with a view to promoting the ideals for which we stand for. So, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, let me say that we have no reason whatsoever to even care or to attempt to even care about those diminishing conduct of people who are irresponsibly occupying public office. As far as APC government is concerned, it is dedicated to the provision of the Constitution under its leadership by the President, and those conducts that you see should not in any way define the democratic position that my party stands for. And I'm sure my leader will attest to that. Thank you very much, sir.
Senator Misal.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, Senator Comrade Issa Misal, representing the good people of Bauchi Central. Mr. President, yes, let me wait for. Mr. President, by my background, from where I came from, I still have some intelligence that I gather all the times. People give me some little intelligence. This demonstration you are seeing outside this gate is organized by a serving minister. And is with support of a sitting governor. But what surprised me, Mr. President, is these two people who are always trying to bring the image of the National Assembly or to fight certain individuals in the National Assembly. They are not doing it because of members of the National Assembly or because the constituency project is not working. They are just doing it because they have certain people in the National Assembly that they want to bring down by all means. Mr. President, I don't know the people close to the President that are even advising the President. These same people, Mr. President, when the President was away to attend his medical issues in London, these are the same people that were conversing. One of them wanted to be president, and the other one wanted to be vice president. And the people close to the president are aware of this. Even when the president came back, I think he has their intelligence. But today, Mr. President, I remember when the president was away for more than 100 days. I remember the time the civil society organizations, a lot of media, they were pushing the National Assembly to form a medical team so that they will make that the president's seat vacant so that there will be change of government. The National Assembly under the leadership of Mr. President and the Speaker, you people stood firm and defended the president when he was not strong. But today, ironically, the same people are the people that the president or the people close to the president are taking more serious than even the president of the Senate and the Speaker. It is on record. Many people don't know. A lot of civil organizations, a lot of money were about to be used in the National Assembly to declare that office of the president vacant because of that medical situation. But people stood firm. But unfortunately, now these same people they were looking for a seat of Mr. President are the ones now good boys around the president or around this thing. Many people don't know. Those people that want to bring you at this moment down, people that have been trying all their means. Because I normally come to your house in the night. There is no member of the cabal or the people today that I don't see them in their house, in your house.
shady and dirty jobs. So it's important now that we use this as a parameter, as a point of reference to begin to create jobs for Nigerians and not to protest against constituency projects, because in their villages, in their communities, they are enjoying constituency projects. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I was set up in the protest for about 30 minutes this morning, and I did not ask any of the boys any question because I don't want them to know I was in the car. I didn't know whether they would go violent. The reality on ground is that they came in a very luxurious buses, very well air-conditioned buses, and most of them are unemployed. So obviously somebody paid for those buses. And I believe that the misconception about constituency project totally misplaced. As a governor for 8 years, I never failed to approve constituency projects for my legislators, because I realized that outside just lawmaking, whenever they went to, their people asked them questions. And then there was also this issue where the governor cannot sit and see everywhere in all the communities. Sometimes you will find out that just a function of a transformer that had broken down and could make a community not to have light for 5-7 years without the governor of the state knowing. And that is the same situation that we have found ourselves at the federal level. So constituency projects from here have actually indeed assisted Mr. President to touch the nooks and crannies of the entire country. For instance, in my area, the people of Akwa Ibom Northwest Senatorial District, otherwise known as Ikere Senatorial District, are very grateful to you, the entire Senate, and Mr. President for the constituency projects approved for my senatorial district. And I went a little bit further. I can confirm my senator from the Eke Senatorial District is here, Senator Nelson Nephew. In doing my constituency project, I extended some of my own to his area, because he went and met a school in a place called Orefong in very deplorable condition. He came to me and appealed to me, and I handed over the little money I had to him, and then we have completed 6 classroom blocks there with a borehole together with a solar powered light. I also extended the same gesture to Senator Albert Akpan in his own senatorial district, because I came out as a former governor, and therefore I'm still a leader, not just of Nigeria, but a leader of the people of West Africa. So as a matter of fact, the constituency project we are talking about, I think one of the problems you have, sir, is the fact that you are too busy to go out and commission some of these projects. When I had the opportunity to commission some of them, I did that mentioning your name, that I'm doing so on behalf of the Senate President and on behalf of Mr. President, and I also told my people to pray for the President that this project is a federal government project. So if you go to all the sites, you'll see the federal government of Nigeria. It's a project of the federal government. And sometimes we have difficulties knowing the contractors. I know of a place where they did a borehole, and then the water tank fell down, and then I started looking for the contractor, and I found out that the contractor comes from Kefi. Kebbi State. Kebbi State, yes. No, not Kebbi, sorry, Kebbi State. And so I couldn't even get the contractor. We had to go to the border agency to go and get the phone number of the contractor for us to get in touch. So people are not aware that even these constituency projects are not done by senators, that senators may suggest them because of the felt needs of the various communities, because of the dilapidated natures of some of the schools, and because of lack of water in some of the communities. But when the jobs are being given, they must pass through due process, free of public enterprises, and at the same time, it is the federal executive, or let me say the executive arm of government, that eventually gives out this job, not the senators. So it's not as if the senators benefit from this project, but the only thing is that they benefit by way of suggesting this project, which will benefit the people. So for any Nigerian to go and pay money to youth, to go out and protest against constituency project, I believe strongly that it is the height of ignorance. It is the height of ignorance. All these 500 billion, 10 billion, 20 billion projects that are being done by the federal government, sometimes it takes years before they materialize and before the people feel the impact. The only way Nigerians feel the impact of the federal government today is through constituency projects. So I would want to request that my colleagues, yes, should note the fact that some people are paid some people to protest, but then that should not deter us from focusing on the first needs of Nigerians. And I want to urge you, sir, if you are too busy to go out and commission some of these projects, let us divide the Senate into committees. Let us get five senators to assist each of the senators to go round. For instance, in my place, I have about 22 of them completed, which I would like even the Senate leader and others to represent you and come call the table, commission them. The people are quite excited. And you can also get even the president to give our ministers to assist us to commission some of these things. Because these are the jobs of the president. And that is the only way the president touches life. And I'm sure that if he knew how happy some of the communities are, there is no way on earth anybody will go and talk about constituency project that even the defense will not come from the federal level and not from the Senate. I believe from today that the ministers will be the ones defending constituency projects in this country and not senators. I so submit, sir.
Colleague, that was good because it's a single prayer. The prayer says that the Senate do continue the well thought out constituency projects of national plan in the various constituencies in Nigeria. Those in favor of the prayer say aye. Those against say nay. That is it. The same issue, let me join others to thanks and to Gemade for bringing up this very important subject matter and also just summarize some of the contributions that you've all made. I think it is important that we continue to educate the public on the importance of these constituency projects and also correct any misinformation that these constituency projects in any way mean it is either money into the hands of lawmakers, but that instead these are projects that are facilitated in different constituencies to ensure that there is a federal presence in every part of the country. Because before now, there is no other best method in ensuring that there is equitable representation of projects in this country. And considering projects as such enables unity, equity, and justice. Because for as long as you have a constituency that you cannot find federal program project, then there's injustice in this country. There's corruption. Because without it, you will find out that it's only where heads of agencies from their own area put projects just in their own area. How can you justify certain constituencies not to have federal projects? We spend 2 trillion every year on capital projects, and there are parts of this country that do not have any project at all. And we believe that will not create disunity or cross problems. So I think that for Nigerians who are being used, people are just taking advantage of the poverty in the country. And what is saddening about it is that those who are doing this are those who are part of government. And I think that this does not help the unity of making harmony between arms of government. And I think Mr. President needs to investigate this and call to order. There's no secret in this. If you go out there, those boys will tell you where they're collecting the money from, the minister that has given them the money, the governor that has given them the money. And these are governors and ministers in the same ruling party. So I really don't understand how we believe we will promote unity with these kind of things. And I think there's need for this kind of activities to stop. It does not help. If you think today you are talking about the 8th Senate or the 8th House of Representatives, and you continue to weaken this institution, it will hurt us later down the line when you need those institutions to stand for democracy. So it is very important that those who are showing abandonment or rascality, irresponsibility, should be called to order, because they're just taking advantage of these young boys. And as you say, today you call them to come and protest against constituency project. The day somebody else calls them to come and protest against even the democracy itself, will have dangers. So I think that these are not the ways. If people have things to settle, scores to settle, they should find other ways, not to use unemployed young youth, knowing very well that what they are fighting about does not make any sense. So I thank those who have brought it. I believe that if there's something wrong with the implementation of constitutional project, it's executive. They award the contract, they release the money. So if there's a problem with that, they should go and protest to the ministries that release the project. They should not come here. We don't award the contract. We don't release the money. So, and if so, that is where they should go. So I think that those who are behind this kind of protest should desist. We know who you are. It's not in the interest of unity of this country, and it doesn't help the country either way. So I think that as going forward, those projects would continue in the interest of this country. Thank you. Leader of the Senate. Point of order, Senator Jang.
Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Jonah David Jang, representing Plateau North, Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'm coming under Order 42 and Order 52, just as the previous one, matters of national urgent interest, national importance. If you permit me, let me stand on what Senator Jimade has already read in these two groups so that I can go ahead because...
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President, it will be recalled that within last week, there were attacks on many villages in Plateau State, particularly in the northern and central senatorial zones of Plateau State. And I would want, on behalf of my colleague, Senator Jeremiah Hosseini, to present to this hallowed chamber what has just happened on the plateau. The Senate would note that the security challenges confronting our country with reference to some communities in the Plateau North and Central Senatorial Districts have become intractable. Also note the communities in Barkin Ladi, Riom, Josau, Basa, Bokos, and Mangu local government areas have been under persistent violent terror attacks from headsmen, which have led to the murder and the displacement of many people. Worried that the recent attacks, which took place between Friday 22nd and Tuesday 27th of June 2018, in Barkin Ladi, Riom, Josau, Bokos, and Mangu local government areas have led to the death of about 250 persons and so many others injured, now receiving treatment in different hospitals in the state. The Senate will note that the recent attacks in Barkin Ladi, Riom, Josau happened in the following areas. Barkin Ladi local government, about 5 villages were attacked with the total loss of 165 people. Total loss of 165 lives. In Gashish alone, and in Haifam Forum and of local governments, bringing the total losses in these other areas to be about 54. In Riom local government, just south, we have a total of about 6 people lost. And as I have said, the total loss is about 200. And then in Bokos, sorry, in Mangu local government, reports reaching me that the total loss is about 98 people from Mangu local government alone. The Senate will note that in Gwarza of Bokos local government area, 7 people were killed. The Senate will also note that the attacks have led to a massive displacement of people in the affected communities who now live in internally displaced camps at Jos South, Riom, and Barkin Ladi local government areas. Worried also that about 50 communities in Rob, Gashis, Bachi, and Riom districts have been forcefully taken over by the terrorist herdsmen. Also worried that about 26 villages in Irigwe villages have been completely sacked and destroyed in Basa local government area by the same herdsmen. Concerned that since the primary purpose of government is the security and well-being of the people, as provided for under Section 14 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, the continuous attacks, killings, and displacements should be addressed decisively. Accordingly, Mr. President, the Senate is urged to resolve as follows. 1. Condemn the terror attacks, mass killings, displacement of the people, and occupation of their ancestral homes and farmlands. 2. Urge the executive arm of government to overhaul the security architecture of the country and in place a better security action plan that will decisively tackle violent terror attacks, threatening the continuous existence of the communities in the North Central geopolitical zone and indeed Nigeria. 3. Further urge the executive arm of government to undertake the immediate rehabilitation of displaced persons and the reconstruction of victim communities in Plateau North and Central Senatorial Districts to enable them return to their ancestral homes and their ancestral farms. 4. Urge the executive arm of government to strengthen the criminal justice administration system, with a view to bringing perpetrators to justice. 5. Urge the National Emergency Management Agency to provide immediate relief and building materials to assist in the reconstruction and resettlement of the affected communities. 6. To set in motion machinery for the amendment of the Northeast Development Commission Act 2017 to include Plateau, Nasarawa, Benue, Zamfara, and Kaduna State in view of the huge in view of the huge devastation suffered as a result of terrorist attacks in these various states. 7. To reconsider its earlier stance, rejecting the state police and take steps to amend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended to include the creation of state police. 8. To set up a committee to visit and assess the level of destruction of lives and properties in the affected communities of Plateau North and Central Senatorial Districts. And lastly, to observe a minute's silence in honor of the murdered victims and pray for the peace of Plateau State and Nigeria. Before I sit down, Mr. President, I want to appreciate the visits to Plateau State and to commiserate with our people by Mr. President of the Federal Republic, by Mr. Vice President, by Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, and the Right Honorable Speaker of Plateau, the Right Honorable Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Our people, on behalf of the Gongom Jos as the Madaki of Jos, he has asked me to really show appreciation to you and others that have, and other prominent Nigerians like former President Obasanjo, who have paid a visit to our people. We really appreciate this, and thank you. God bless you. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this motion.
Senator Lidani.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Joshua Lidani, representing Gombe South. I rise once more to lend my support to this motion. This latest carnage on the plateau is the latest in a series of carnages that have been occurring daily, almost daily, in this country. So much so that people are becoming immune to the story of killings, to the story of murder, to the stories of arson. It has become commonplace, and value of life is becoming valueless. And every day we get treated to these stories, and every day we do the same thing. Somebody once said that you cannot be doing the same thing and expect a different result. We have had these killings on the plateau, we have had it in Benue, we have had it in Zamfara. Even as yesterday, there was a report in the newspapers that 25 bodies were discovered in a shallow grave in Zamfara. But the problem, or the question we should be asking ourselves is, what is to be done? Why are we continuing to have all these crises all over and over again? To me, one of the main reasons why this keeps recurring is the impunity. The impunity. Every day we hear herdsmen go and attack villages, kill them, burn their houses, destroy their property, and they disappear into thin air. And the next day it happens again. The next day it happens again. To the best of my knowledge, information, I believe, since this pogrom started, we have never had a situation where the culprits have been apprehended, they have been detained, or they have been prosecuted. Which means something must be wrong with our security apparatus. It's either they don't have the correct intelligence, or they are indifferent to it, or they don't have the proper leadership. But otherwise, how should people come into this country, whether they are residents of this country or they are coming from somewhere, commit these acts of mayhem and disappear into thin air? What are our security agents doing? And because nobody has ever apprehended these people, or arrested them, or prosecuted them, they have been emboldened to do more things, commit more atrocities. So the question is, what is the problem? Is it that they don't have the necessary intelligence, or is it that the security agencies do not care, or are not in a position, or lack the capacity to handle this situation? So we need to beam our satellite on the leadership of the security agencies, and in fact, we need to beam our satellite on what these security agencies are doing. How have they been approaching this problem? So once there is impunity, once nobody takes responsibility, once nobody is arrested, and so long as nobody is arrested and prosecuted, this thing will continue to recur. Secondly is the political will. We've always had this problem. It's happening all over and over. In fact, yesterday I was watching YouTube and I saw the discussion, the debate in the House of Lords in UK on this issue. The House of Lords debating on the issue of killings in Nigeria. It means that this matter has gone international. It means the world is beginning to take notice of the carnage, the mayhem, and the pogrom that is going on. But what have we ourselves been doing? Why is the political will? Have we mastered the political will to confront this situation? I think, Mr. President, the time has gone for platitudes or for just 1 minute silence. We need to do something very dramatic, very drastic, so that people's lives will be saved. But if we keep on always coming here to talk shop, I don't think we are helping in solving this problem. I think we need to think of ways of doing something dramatic. Either the entire Senate should visit this plateau. The entire Senate should go and visit and emphasize with the people. Should go to Zamfara. They should go to Plateau. They should go to Benue and have a joint sitting with the Houses of Assembly to demonstrate our concern for this problem and to draw the attention of the government to this problem. Mr. President, government exists for the peace and security of its citizens. If a government cannot do that, then it is looking like a failed government. And if we have a failed government, definitely there will be no democracy. And this country, if care is not taken, will go to blazes. When we visited Zamfara as part of the committee to look into this crisis, I remember that some of the people we met there were telling us that already there is a connection between the bandits that inhabit Zamfara forest with the bandits operating in Kaduna State. There is a linkage, which means they are relating with each other. And the moment they start relating with each other, very soon there will be an international dimension to it. Zamfara is close to the border. They will soon have connections with other international terrorist organizations. And once we start having this infiltration of international terrorist organizations, it means this country is facing a very serious problem. I wish this motion had come up on a day when there is live television, so that people will get to know that something needs to be done drastically by the government. You cannot continue to sit down and say 1 minute silence in respect of the people that have died. Mr. President, this calls for something drastic, and I think the prayers contained in the motion is inadequate to deal with the situation. Let's do something as a parliament, something dramatic, something drastic, so that we draw the attention not only of the government of the day, but of the international community to the problem that is happening. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator DSP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, I would like to use the opportunity to send my heartfelt condolences to our brothers and sisters in Plateau State who lost their dear ones, and indeed all Nigerians who feel they have been diminished by what has happened in Plateau State. Let me also send my condolences to our colleague, Senator Aliero, who also lost some people in the circumstances which have now been described by Senator Dang. I'm also aware that the Speaker of the House of Representatives also lost some people from his constituency who attended the APC convention and were going back. So it is not just about Plateau, it's about citizens and inhabitants of this country who lost their lives and have their property destroyed because we've not been able to live up to the expectations of our Constitution, which is namely to protect lives and properties. Few weeks or months ago, when the matter came up about the killings in Zamfara, the killings in Benue, and of course Nasarawa State, I remember I made a point that it will happen again. And it didn't happen. Let me also say again today that it will also happen again. It will continue to happen until we are prepared to do the correct thing, to do what other civilized countries of the world are doing, which is to take it seriously in providing the necessary security architecture
that can be able to provide service, this necessary service to protect the lands and properties of Nigerians. Do we have such security architecture in Nigeria today? The answer is simply no. Are we making an effort to do so? The answer is also no. And that is why it is happening, and that's why it will continue to happen. Today, let me express my gratitude to the British Parliament for what is going on in Nigeria is taking a new dimension. The world is crying out and asking the government of Nigeria to do something about it. And we must not abdicate our responsibilities as a Senate to continue to speak about this. What happened in Plenary, in Plateau, as I speak, is also happening in many places. It's happening in Zamfara, it's happening in Nasarawa, it's happening in Kaduna, it is happening in Benue, it's happening in the south, it's happening in the north. And so no place is safe in Nigeria because people travel from place to place. So if you think that it's only Benue or Plateau that people are being killed, they are making a mistake. Because some of these people who were killed during the war happened in Plateau are not just Plateau people. They can happen to any person. So that's why we need to show sufficient concern and find a way of dealing with these people, these things. Now, the truth of the matter is that the federal government do not have the resources and manpower to deal with this matter. We have trained our soldiers, we have trained our policemen, and moved them where these trouble spots to see how they avoid this. But the problem is that either the numbers is insufficient, or they don't have sufficient training, or they're overwhelmed by the sheer number of these criminals. And so what happens is that each time we send these policemen and soldiers, they are also killed, and their families remain stranded. We have widows all over the place, widows of policemen, widows of the military personnel who died in these internal conflicts. And some people are also benefiting from this. I'm told that because these soldiers and policemen are paid allowances, so when they are killed, nobody reports it, so that those allowances will continue to come. So, and this is unfortunate. This is called blood money. So we need to sit down and find a solution because such people are benefiting from this. Then from this will continue because they continue to make money from it. And that's why we need to sit up and call a spade a spade. So, Mr. Senate President, this morning I listened to you carefully. You addressed to the Senate. And you made the point clear that you support state police as a way forward. I want to thank you for this realization. And I want to suggest clearly that this Senate must take it as a responsibility to make provision for state police going forward as quickly as possible. I'm undertaking to prepare the bill, and any person who wants to be a co-sponsor is welcome. Between now and next week, that bill must have a first reading in the Senate, and we're going to send it to the House of Representatives so that it move concurrently. I believe that if we're able to put a good structure of a decentralized police that's well regulated, because some people are fearing about the abuse of this. They are fearing because we have not been able to decide how to make sure that it's not abused. So if we're able to come articulate processes and procedures that will ensure that this is not abused, I think that will go a long way in resolving this problem. So that each state will have the type of police they need, the number of policemen they need, and equip them the way they want in such a way as to contain the problem they have in their states. This is what is happening everywhere in the world, from America to Europe, Asia, everywhere. That is how it is done. Police has been centralized because criminals are multiplying, so you have to come up with initiatives on how to deal with it. The state is empowered in such a way through social contract to overwhelm criminals, but yet criminals are overwhelming the state. So that is not acceptable. And the only way to ensure that police and security people overwhelm the criminals is to ensure that each state of this federation will have the number and type of police they need in order to contain what problem that is confronting them. Until we do that, we continue to have this problem. So I want to appeal to all my colleagues to look at this bill when it comes in such a way that we'll be able to deal with it to help us solve this problem, because this is an international embarrassment. We never leave this country and go anywhere. The first they keep asking is about the killings in Nigeria. What are we doing about it? Yes, some will say it is the responsibility of the executive, but we have our own responsibility. Are we be able to do the proper legislation to put in place the sufficient infrastructure to deal with it? The answer is no. And we cannot keep complaining that we don't have enough policemen, that there's still for state police. And we have not taken any step of faith in dealing with it. So that is why between now and tomorrow and Thursday, I'm going to come up with the bill for establishment of state police in Nigeria, and I'll solicit the support of every member of this Senate and indeed the House of Representatives and indeed the State Assembly to ensure the quick passage of this bill, so that let us see how far this can help to contain these killings. So I support this motion, and my heart again goes to the people of Plateau. May the souls of those who died in Plateau and other places rest in perfect peace.
Senator Nero.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I rise with a heavy heart to condemn in its entirety what happened in Jos. Whether the killing was done by enhancement or the reprisal killing embarked upon by the Bureau, both sides have to be looked into, and both sides perpetrated violence or unleashed violence on Nigerians, and that amounted to the killing of over 350 people based on the report we got. Mr. President, I am a victim. I lost somebody that is very close to me. I lost somebody who worked with me tirelessly for over 4 years. He was always in my house. Virtually he's my son, Mr. President. Because he intermingles with my children, with my wife. We eat breakfast together, we eat lunch together, we eat dinner together. So this is a death that one can hardly forget till one's end. So, Mr. President, something needs to be done on just crisis. Immediately, there is killing either between the houses, the Birums, or the locals. Anybody passes through just going to Bauchi, going to Adamawa, and going to Gombe becomes a victim. These people are innocent people, just like my SLA, who happens to come from Kevi. He went to Bauchi to escort his friend for a marriage proposal, and they finished the marriage proposal. On their way coming back, they met this crisis going on. Nobody asked him for anything. He simply looks like a house of Plenary, and he became a victim. They started attacking him, they killed him to death, they even bombed the car together with the people inside it. Mr. President, this is a condemnable act. This is a heinous crime. This is a pogrom. This is more than hate. We have to tell the truth. And what is so alarming, Mr. President, this thing was going on for over 4.5 hours. We have police. Nothing was done. Nothing was done. For more than 4 hours, this crisis was going on. Nobody came to save the people that were passing. And Senator Goje is not here. He told me that he lost so many people that came for a peaceful convention. Equally, the people in Bauchi were also affected, because after convention they started going back home, and they made this crisis go on. Quite a number of them were killed, some were maimed, some are still in the hospital. So nobody can even tell you the actual number of people that are affected. Mr. President, we have been here condemning violence. We even held a security summit. 5 recommendations were made. We have not done anything. So this is time for us to take concrete action. What and what should be done? It is not a question of sending security agents. Even if you send security agents, if you don't give them the way with them, they will not do anything. I saw a crisis going on, or demonstration going on this morning on TV, in Borgu. You sent policemen, you didn't give them money to feed. You didn't even give them money to fold their vehicles. How do you expect them to perform? They will just stay in one place. Boko Haram insurgents will simply come and kill all of them, because they are more armed, more motivated, and they can do anything, Mr. President. This is time for us to take action. Concrete action needs to be taken. The security architecture of the country should be overhauled. The killing is too much. The international community is looking at Nigeria as unsafe now. Nobody will even come and invest anything in Nigeria. People that are interested in coming as tourists are scared. They cannot come because
You think every day 200 people are killed, 300 people are killed. There's no way anybody can come into our country unless if the situation is reversed. And the only way we can reverse the situation is to can be overhauled so that it can be more effective.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, because of the importance of this debate, we need to extend time to sit beyond 2 o'clock, our regular time. I therefore move that we suspend our Standing Order 13 to enable the Senate sit beyond 2 o'clock to discuss these issues thoroughly and very well. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the leader. Distinguished colleagues in favor to extend time, say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, I will. Senator, will continue.
Mr. President, I'm on the measures that should be taken. All the perpetrators of this heinous crime should be arrested and be prosecuted accordingly. There should be no sacred cow. If this had happened before, honestly, this crisis would have stopped long time ago. More than 10 incidences happened in Kaduna, in Plateau, in Nasarawa, in Benue, in Zamfara. Yet we don't see perpetrators being arrested. Even if they are arrested, we don't see them being prosecuted. What is happening? We need to know what happened to all the people that were arrested. I'm happy when the police paraded few suspects in those that were arrested. Mr. President, arrest is not enough. We want them to be prosecuted according to the law of this country. It will serve as a deterrent to other people that come out to enlist violence on innocent people. People just are just passing through just for no cause. You start hacking them to death. And it is so barbaric, Mr. President. Even the ISIS cannot do this. You kill somebody, you start cutting his body, you burn him to death, you burn his car. What kind of hatred is this? Mr. President, apart from this, there is need to embark on truth and reconciliation, particularly in Jos, between the Hausas, the so-called settlers, and also the so-called indigenous. Perhaps if this is done, it will go a long way in solving the problem. Anytime the crisis happens, they start killing each other. We need to ensure that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is set up in Jos or in Plateau, so that we will have permanent peace in Jos. Not only that, Mr. President, I want to support the motion the DSP is proposing to bring with small amendment. I want us to emphasize on community policing, because community policing, particularly in our own setup, will be more effective than having the state police. The only thing is that community policing will have to rely on the spiritual power of the police force or even the army in the event of violence. But they should be given all the wherewithal to contain security matters when it arises. Mr. President, governors are not in a position today, as I know, to fund the police. Even federal government, we are crying here every day that the police is ineffective, simply because we don't give them funds to operate properly. If we give them funds to operate properly, they will be able to police the entire federation. But to simplify it, let's emphasize on community policing. It's, to me, in my mind, it's going to be more effective than the state police. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, distinguished colleagues.
Senator Issa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, First, I would like to condole with the people of Plateau, Zamfara, Taraba, Ebonyi, Nasarawa, and many other states. Then again, I would like to condole with Senator Alero, the loss of his SLA, who I've worked with him when we went for this ad hoc committee on ban on importation of rice. We were with him throughout, from Lagos to so many states in this country. A very humble person. It's a great loss to all of us. Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, if we go through the archives, about 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, I stood here, I said these killings will continue. And today, over 18 months, the same result. And what we are saying is, when I hear the DSP talking about state police, community police, they are not the solution to our problems. Let us be honest to ourselves. It is failure of leadership. When did this crisis start happening? When? Do we have this crisis 10 years ago? Do we have this crisis 15 years ago? So what is the genesis of this crisis? So many times we sit down here, we make contribution, we make resolution, but some people are there in the villa. As long as something is coming from the National Assembly, they don't want the president to implement it. The president is the solution to this problem. It is time for the president to act now. The country is going down. If you look at the social media everywhere, drums of war, civil war is gradually moving. You see Muslim clerics, Christian clerics preaching hatred. You see people talking about tribes anyhow. If the president is saying that some of the security chiefs are incompetent, then why is he retaining them? Why can't we tell ourselves the truth? It is like garbage, it is like computer, garbage in, garbage out. If you put an incompetent person to head a place, it will not bring good result. So why are we keeping people if we know there is no good result there? So, Mr. President, is it the dividend of democracy that we are talking about? Killings every day. We don't even keep records of the people who are dying. We don't even give them beneficial burial. I saw it disgusting in Plateau, whereby you just dig a ditch, you bury about 200 people. You don't even allow people to come and pick their loved ones to go and give them beneficial distance within 48 hours. What kind of a country is it? What is the value of human life in Nigeria? What is the value? We should ask ourselves. Killings are taking place everywhere. We don't care. It is the primary responsibility of government protection of life and property. And the police, even constitutionally, they are to prevent and protect people and their property. What are we saying? Just common example. During the APC convention, the police mobilizing 5,000 people in a place that is no more than 5 hectares. They are deploying helicopter. Throughout the killings in Plateau, did they deploy any helicopter? Did they deploy 5,000 policemen? How many policemen? How many hours did it take? When we come here, we talk. They say we are against government. What is against the government? If government is not doing the right thing, we will continue to talk. It is time for the president to act. He should sack the people that are not competent. He has said it so many times. There are some people that are not competent. The leadership yesterday, mobile policemen were demonstrated in Maiduguri. The channel television captured it live. Today, a lot of injustice taking place in Nigeria, and we are keeping quiet. What is more important? Is it injustice or fighting corruption? Injustice is even worse than corruption. People close to the president are just blinding him with issues of corruption. If we continue to fight corruption, we are not addressing insecurity. Where are we going to even have the country to even listen? The injustice that is taking place is even worse than corruption. We must address this insecurity. If If we don't address it, we'll wake up one day and we'll see civil war, or we'll see everywhere is blocked and people are being killed. We can't continue to come here and be reading motions, passing resolution, 1 minute prayer, take emergency. These are the things that we've been doing for more than 2 years. What is the solution? The solution is on the table of the president, and it is time for him to act. If he himself admitted that some people are incompetent in the government, he should remove them. Or if he's not going to remove them, he should tell us the reason why they are still maintaining their seats. Anybody can be a victim of what is happening. That is my route. I always go to Bauchi through that road. And I don't even carry much security men. So anybody can fall victim of what is happening. Mr. President, the amount of energy, the amount of resources our security agencies are deploying on politicians is enough to solve some of this problem. The kind of resources, the kind of people they are putting on politicians is enough to solve this problem. If it was political rally or what they say, you will have seen so many people there, you have seen helicopter, or you have seen policemen there. Today, the government has devoted their time, their energy, their resources, the security of removing Senate President or destabilizing the National Assembly. It's of no use. And that is what got us to where we are here. Some people that are not competent surrounded the president, and they are giving him wrong advice. Wrong. Some people that don't even mix with people. Some people that are cooled down somewhere in a small place. They don't listen to people. We are representing people. We always listen to the people. They call us. They tell us what is happening. Some people, you don't even have access to them, and they are the one advising government on what to do. We will continue to have this problem. And if this thing is a democracy we're craving, I have no listen. I can one day stand here and resign, or I can put up anything. That is not, what is the dividend? Every day, this thing. Mr. President, as a solution to this, we must place value for human life. Even if it is 30 million, even if it is Muhammad, so that once they kill somebody, the government has to pay that money. Maybe if they look at the amount of money they are going to be paying every day, I think it will make the government to sit up. In Zamfara, just yesterday, about 40 people, this thing. If you charge the government to be paying 50 million for each soul, I think the government will wake up. We can't continue. Our people are being killed every day. They are being buried like garbage. Why are we so in a hurry to even bury those people? Within 48 hours, you cannot even allow people to come and identify their loved ones and go and bury them. You put them like nothing. You look up in Lagos, a tanker exploded. You look at the people in the hospital, they are there, left on their own. So what is the value? We must ask ourselves, what is the value of human life in Nigeria? And every day, we keep seeing headsmen, Fulani, everything they call it. Arrest the people. The work of the security is not even mobilizing. It's to prevent these things. It's not about telling us that after crisis, you have mobilized something. It's not the work. So we are here every day, we bring motion, we bring things. It is time, everything is on top of the president table. A lot of things are going on, and he has to take action. If he doesn't take action, these things will continue to take place. This thing is something that we can solve. We have people that can solve this problem. But because of hypocrisy, because they don't have godfathers, they are being relegated to nothing. Today you go to the police are demoralized, no discipline in the police, because you create a special promotion that you keep promoting people that are giving money, people that are close to politicians, people that are close to you. You can imagine the spokesperson of the Nigerian police. Three months ago, he was CP. Under some days, they gave him special promotion as Assistant Commissioner of Police. After a month, they gave him a special promotion to Deputy Commissioner of Police. Today, Commissioner of Police, what can he do? What can he do? Whereby some people are there in Maiduguri fighting Boko Haram, fighting so many things. Even their allowances are not paid. Somebody is sitting in the office every month. You are giving him special protection. Giving money. Without the police, we cannot achieve anything. No country will progress under democracy without the police. And there is no discipline there. The morale of the officers totally down. There was an officer that called me. He said because of that special promotion, he felt like joining Boko Haram. He said that is what he felt. And another policeman that met there's another policeman that met Senator Allah. What you told Allah, you can confide on Allah because of this injustice that is taking place. If we are accusing the former government of corruption, then we are doing worse than injustice. A lot of injustice is taking place in the country, and we are not addressing it, and we are thinking that we will have positive results. It's not possible. We are not the only country that have God. Every other country they are praying to God. Other country, every other politician, they have God. We should do the right thing. We can't be blaming God. Things will happen. We say, God. Prayer will not solve the problem, but we have to do the right thing. If we don't do the right thing, we'll continue. Unless we don't care with our people. You can hear the narratives of the DSP when he was talking about the American citizens. If one American dies, either in war front or anywhere, they will spend anything to go and get that dead body. They can spend anything. They can protect it anywhere. He doesn't have to be in that country. Any country, they will move there to protect their person. Do we do it? Instead, even the people that are doing the right thing, we want to eliminate them. We want to fill their mouth. Which country is this? We have to do the right thing. If not, I see no reason why we'll continue to be talking about democracy when there is no democracy. The democracy is about respect to the rule of law, to the Constitution. Do we do it? Do we respect the Constitution? Do we respect the rule of law? Do we do it? So which one are we practicing? Why are we sitting here? Is it that all of us, we don't have work to do apart from this? We should try and form any kind of government that want to, but the democracy is not working. It's not working. If this is democracy, then it's a shame. This is not democracy. Democracy is something that at least the people will be protected. People are not protected now. Mr. President, I just have to go sit down. It's not about passing resolution. It's about acting on those resolutions. The people surrounding the president should not look at the National Assembly. Even if they don't want us, let them look at what we are saying. Let them implement the good thing. You can decide to say you don't like me. No problem, don't like me. But the thing, if what I'm saying makes sense, do it. Do it. And this is the result of what is happening. This is the result. Because of few individuals, we have compromised democracy, we have compromised our security, we have compromised everything. And a lot of people now, the same thing that happened during Goodluck's regime. When people make statements to say, do this, they will say it's enemy. Anybody now giving his own advice to the government, before you know they say you are an enemy to the government. Is government not, is democracy not a government that people will advise? Because it's a representative government. It's government represented by everybody. We have every right when we're sitting. And when you are there, it's just like football. If you are inside, you will not see the mistake, but somebody that is outside will see the mistake, and that is the time maybe he will provide solution for you. So they are there. They will not see the mistake. Is it everybody that will get to the villa, or is it everybody that will get to the executive to tell them? So it's for us to do the right thing. This thing that we are doing in the National Assembly that cannot solve the problem. 18 months ago, I said the killings will continue. And if they don't act, the killings will continue. It's bad. It's very bad. We are not safe. If you think that maybe you are moving with a sarin, you are moving with a policeman, if they block it, you will be surprised the security men that they are protecting you, they will be the first people to run and leave you. They will be the first to leave you. So we have not said we should try and communicate and do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Senator Gunka.
Mr. President, I rise to support this motion. There's a saying that says, generals are not obtained in the barracks but in the battlefield. When you look at what happened in the plateau, the airport that will land is very close to the scene of what happened in the plateau. But most of them, when they just land in the airport, they lead themselves straight to the government house. And from the government house, they now go take back their own journey. Well, the people that are victims, nobody is there to console them. The president has never gone there to see and said, okay, let me sympathize with these people. What is he afraid? Is he not a general? Is he afraid of death? If not, then why didn't he go to visit the site where this gruesome killing was done? When we're talking about this, the security men know those people that are perpetrating these issues, and yet they keep silent. There was a time in this very incident that someone came out in the social media making claims that the killing in the plateau was as a reprisal attack on the cow theft. Mr. Gustav, Senator Miso said, we have to place value on a human being. Are the cows more valuable than the human life? That when this thing happened, and nobody, I said nobody, can now go straight to say, those people that have made those statements, we're talking of hate speech, and none of them have been arrested, and they will be beating their chest, that this is because of the cows, the number of cows that have been killed. When even God that created us, he made the cows and the animals to be our own feet. He created us in his own image, not in the image of animals. Nothing is being done in that aspect. Even in the conventional war rules, you don't have to kill children. You don't have to kill women that are helpless. See children that are just but 1-2 years. See the way they have been butchered. This is very uncalled for. And yet, I don't know whether the president is seeing those things. I don't know whether the security people are seeing all those things. Why is it that they are not condemning it? President has never one day come out with a solution and said, this thing that is being done, this is the solution. What is the capacity of our military? I don't think we're up to 70,000 in army. Over 180 million people. Where is the justice? And yet, even what happened in the demonstration going on in Maiduguri, the police can come out openly and say it is a lie. Are we now blind? Things that have been shown on the Bluetooth, and we have seen those things. And yet, the government and the police, the security are denying it. Then there must be something behind it. The president has to come and address this nation on why he's very quiet and why he's not providing solution. When he came into this, when he came on his campaign train, I think that is what gave him the merit. When he promised he was going to arrest this issue of Boko Haram and this herdsmen issues. But today, he is folding his hands. And people are being killed on a daily basis. He expects that Nigerians should be celebrating him for burying their loved ones. I think we have to, as the legislative arm, come out with a solution. Even though they are hating us, but the truth is always bitter. And we will continue to tell the truth. Let them have it in mind. Posterity will judge us one day. That once upon a time, there was a National Assembly called the 8th National Assembly. They profound solutions to this. They said and they cried aloud. Their cry has been just like they cried in the wilderness, that nobody is hearing it. But one day, posterity will judge. And we will certainly come to the conclusion, and they will say, oh, there was a time the National Assembly will have said this, and it was not hearkened to. So I believe we should not relent, we should not withdraw, and we should continue to forward ever on this fighting for injustice, fighting to see that, yes, this nation come in unity and come as one entity. Because as it has been said earlier on, nobody, I was on my flight from Malaysia down to US the other time. I met with a German who said Nigeria is so corrupt because we sat side by side with him. I became very angry. And because he's a German, I told him, I said, what you are saying here today, are you a descendant of the Hitler? I gave it back to him. I gave it back to him. And I told him that Nigeria, as you are seeing, it's not everybody that you see in Nigeria that is corrupt. It's not everybody that you see in Nigeria that is playing injustice. But there are people behind it. And those people must be brought to book. So that at least we can have a peaceful environment to live. We can have a country that we call our own. I can travel from north to east, west to south, without any fear or contradiction at all. I may fall a victim. And I so said, this grandson killing has to be stopped, and we have to sit down as a Senate and then profound solution, and then give it to the public. Let the international world know that yes, this thing we are saying, it has been said. We will not keep our mouth quiet, and nobody can seal our mouth, because we have the mandate of the people that have elected us into this place. All the ministers that we are talking about, they were just appointees. They have never gone to the rural areas to find out and said, okay, we are seeking for their support. They sat down and they gave them the position at a platter of gold. They don't know anywhere. So they have to, if the president wants to have a good government, then he has to listen to the National Assembly, and that is what makes the country and make our regime here today to be democracy. So I said, I strongly condemn the gruesome killing, and I believe under the leadership of our Senate President we'll be able to come out with a very good resolution that the international world will now look at it and then play the justice. Thank you.
Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my very distinguished and respected colleagues, let me join all my colleagues who spoke earlier to commiserate with the people of Plateau State. Mr. President, what happened in Plateau State is condemnable. It's not acceptable at all. As a country, we have to ensure that we live peacefully. And as a government, we must ensure that we protect the lives and property of citizens. Mr. President, I believe that what happened in Plateau has united both the executive arm and the legislative arm of government in this respect. Mr. President, You visited Plateau State on our behalf. You had engagements with the President of the Federal Republic to look into the possibility of getting sustainable solutions to what has been happening in Plateau State. There is a marked difference between what happened in Plateau State and what is happening in some other parts of the country in terms of insecurity. The difference is in Plateau, it appears to be an ethnic situation. Sometimes we call tribes, but one thing that unites all the insecurity situations in Nigeria is people lose their lives. Mr. President, on this situation, I am sure the executive arm of government is listening very carefully. Emotions have never risen to this level in this country for some time after the killings in Plateau State. I believe that our resolutions on this will be respected. As for security agencies, I believe that the system is simply flawed and is not yielding the desired results. It is my conviction that together with the executive arm of government, the time has come to rejig, to reform the security architecture, as well as provide a better infrastructure for our securities to be more efficient and effective. And time is of essence here, because we cannot afford to have any more loss of lives like we did in Plateau State last week. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, what this time requires is unity in ensuring that as a government, particularly the two arms of government, the legislature and the executive, find a solution. Nigerians don't care who is at fault. What Nigerians need is to be protected. We should continue to be positive, even if sometimes we get disappointed. Sometimes it is very easy to say that we should go it alone. But we have limitations as legislators. What we require to do is persistence that things must change. And in our persistence, we must remain optimistic and not be frustrated. Because at the end of the day, our target should be that these killings stop. This country cannot develop, like most colleagues who spoke said, without security. Even citizens fear to walk or to move around, talk less of invest, talk less of perhaps foreigners coming to invest in our country. We therefore need to be persistent. I will urge all of us to be positive in this. We must continue to push it. Let us not feel that we have done something or we have passed resolutions and they were never respected. These resolutions, I have something in me telling me that the President Muhammadu Buhari administration will do something very positive, very remarkable, and even dramatic to ensure that what happened in Plateau is accounted for and is never allowed to happen again. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to urge all of us to continue to support this move that the infrastructure of our security is supported and improved. We may not be completely right if we insist on pushing funds only to either the police or the military. The entire system appears to be problematic. So maybe what we require is ensuring that we somehow rejig the architecture itself when these people don't work together, when there is no coordinator to ensure that everybody's information and activities are planned together and implemented as designed. When at the end of the day, every one of the security agencies want to go it alone, seeking self-glory, we know that we have a problem. We have to make sure that we address this before we start throwing funds. I believe that some are of immediate need, and therefore we need to take immediate action. Thank you very much, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. President, my very respected colleagues. First, I want to join everybody in commiserating with the entire Nigerian society, and particularly the good people of Plateau State, on the very brutal and gruesome murder of hundreds of Nigerians, our brothers and sisters. I want to also support my colleagues in all their submissions, especially the last speaker, the Senate leader, Senator Lawan, who advocated for a rejig of the security architecture. Though rejig may also sound like restructuring, it may be understood differently by different people. But from the grammatical point of view, I believe what he's saying is that we cannot do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. So I thank him for his submission. My heart is heavy, and my heart goes out to the families who may have remained where their loved ones have been killed. If you see the social media, you notice that it is agog with phones that were picked on the ground from those who died, and some of them were attempting to video what was going on. In the process, their heads were blown off by bullets. Children being butchered, pregnant women not only killed, but the unborn babies brought out of their stomach and slaughtered. I saw a young man struggling to carry his junior brother, and then the leg was blown almost into pieces. Then suddenly one leg fell off. I could not sleep. I don't think there is any Nigerian, no matter your persuasion, that will be happy with what is going on, or what has gone on, particularly in Jos, what has gone on in Zamfara State, in Taraba, in Benue, in Borno, in all parts of Nigeria where we have these killings going on, and very recently in Ebonyi State and in Enugu State. Mr. President, the United States Council on Foreign Relations, in assessing the situation in Nigeria, made a statement that about 19,890 deaths of the nature of the ones that occurred in Jos have been recorded in this country since June 2015 to date. So, Mr. President, the Senate leader was worried with the phone I was holding in my hand. I wanted something to support myself because of the emotion. I listened to Senator Misao and others, and I actually have nothing to add this time. Whether it is ethnic, whether it is religious, it must be condemned, and highly condemnable. The issue is, should the Senate continue to talk and sound like broken record? because resolution after resolution and no result, Nigerians are getting tired. I want to leave us with the prayers of St. Francis of Assisi. He said, God, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, may your love increase. Where there is grief, provide succor. May God provide succor to Nigeria.
Senator Dokwe. Thank you, thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of myself and my constituents, Southern Senatorial Zone of Nasarawa State, as a sister state of Plateau, we feel your pains because we have also gone through some of these crises and we're still in it, and we know how you feel. But particularly in Plateau, this has been going on for a very long time. To the extent that we even lost a colleague in this Senate. If this were forgotten, that crisis consumed late Senator Danton and also a member of the House of Assembly in Plateau State. What baffles me is that in Jos, you have a whole battalion stationed in Jos, and the present president of Nigeria was one-time GOC in Jos. We have an Air Force base and so many other security stations in that part of the country. But this crisis has persisted for over a decade, and it gets worse every day. And you wonder what is happening. Sometimes we give explanations such as these deaths have been occurring. But like our Bible says, shall we continue in sin so that grace will abound? Something must give at a certain point. Somebody must stop this carnage, like I raised in my motion in the past. That the task before us completely is how do we stop this carnage? We are becoming a laughing stock in the international community, and it is very, very sad. It is quite reassuring the way the leader of the Senate spoke, because earlier in the day I asked him what is happening, and as a leader of this Senate and leader of government business, for him to assure us that he is absolutely confident that Mr. President will do something about this. I believe him. And even the way I saw Mr. President spoke in Jos and his countenance, it is very clear to all of us that he is now feeling the rising emotions in the country. And it is definitely now his responsibility to put a stop to it. And just as somebody mentioned, the debates that took place in the House of Lords in UK are led by one Lord Acton and Lady Cox. It is amazing the details that the lead debate contains. Village by village, persons that have been killed. They even know what is going on in this country more than we that are living inside. And very hard facts. This means that our problems have become internationalized. And it is now a cause for us to begin to worry. Because if the entire world now knows that Nigeria is not a safe place to go, it means we are also going to be affected in every other dealings that we have with the international community. Indeed, I read in the papers today that our first quarter economic report shows that direct foreign investment has dropped by 15%. 15% is a lot of percent. We expect that the variation should not be more than 1 to 2%, but 15% is huge. It is a reflection of what is going on. And this is how a country becomes a banana republic, becomes an anarchist country where anything gives. There is nobody in this country now that can live from point A to B without worrying if he can get there safe. That is not good for a polity. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for our survival. The long and short of it all is that the first duty of any government is to protect lives and property.
Any other thing is secondary. Any government that fails to provide security for life and property has a huge moral burden to prove the worth of its existence. I would believe that time has come for us to make very clear mapping of how to deal with this problem. And most of the crises taking place, they are unique to certain geopolitical areas. If you look at Zamfara and Kaduna, the problem is similar. And you can draw a security plan on how to deal with that. The problem that is occurring in the Middle Belt region, Plateau, Nasarawa, Benue, including Taraba. I mentioned it in my motion last time, that most of the communities spill over each other. And if you are going to deal with the crisis in this place, it must be unique to it. But we are not doing anything to show that there is a plan to deal with these problems. That is why they are reoccurring. They are becoming embarrassing. They are becoming a problem even for us to relate with other parts of the world. You cannot travel freely now without people asking you what is going on in Nigeria. And to add salt to injury, the social media is not even reflecting the true positions of things. There are photoshoppings going on. Sometimes crises that are taking place 10, 20 years ago are placed in the new killings. And you wonder whether this is really what is happening or this is what has happened before. In fact, it even took the BBC to make analysis of all the pictures that have been shown on the social media, the ones that are correct and the ones that are fake news. That is very sad for us. We cannot even distinguish between the actual things going on and what is being imported. Some of the pictures we saw are even incidences that took place in other countries, not even in our country. And so this shows that if the government does not rise up to the occasion, charlatans will take over the country for us. People are reading different meanings into the crisis going on. One of the news that was put on the social media later on was disowned as fake news. And it was a very dangerous news that was almost instigating religious war in the country. And this is why I want to agree with the Senate leader, even if he is playing politics. I want him to go and tell the president that the emotions, just as he said here, have risen to the ceiling level. And he has to do something about it. Because no matter what happens, he is the commander of the Nigerian Armed Forces. The buck stops on his table. He has to deal with this war as it is. Because we are almost at the brink of war. And we have to raise to that occasion. And I agree that we as a parliament must also come out with a design on how to help the government to stop this war. Thank you.
Senator General Amneko.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleague. Let me start by also commensurating with our brothers from Plateau State. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, I don't know how many of my colleagues have watched this video. Because if you had the opportunity of seeing this Plateau killings video, then you will know this is a different dimension of killings happening in our country. But let me commend the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House for taking the bold initiative the very day this incident happened, visiting the President and conferring with him as the way forward of this killing that has been happening in our country. Even though we've not been briefed what was discussed, but I know there are some initiatives that have been taken in this regard. Mr. President, maybe I came late. So, Mr. President, my own issue is that the last time I spoke on this floor and addressed this August gathering, I called on the removal of the service chiefs and the police. Today, I think the entire country are calling for their removal. And I believe this is only in the interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, what is my own suggestion concerning how to end this killing? And I believe the fastest amendment to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria should happen in this 8th Senate. And that is amending the Constitution for the creation of state police. There is no two ways about it now. Because, Mr. President, we say we practice true federalism. We have what we call sheriff, which are the local policing. We have the state police and the federal policing. Here in Nigeria, anything about police is about politics. And that is why we continue to have a police that is not functional. Mr. President, the Plateau killing, if you watch the video, these people are helpless. There is nobody coming from anywhere to intervene. But can you imagine where there is community policing that is guiding that community 24/7, where we have state policing that is under the control of the state government? Before, it is immediately after any incident happens, you will now see the IG deploying men to go there. For how long are we going to wait? Plateau is just a tip of the iceberg of many still to come. So for us as a National Assembly, what we should do now, without no further delay, is to just ensure the Constitution is amended to accommodate state policing and local policing. That is when we can stop coming here and start talking every day about this. Any state that have the capacity to do this, let them start, so that we can put a stop to this killing. A governor of a state addressed the nation that is dropping his powers regarding guiding the security and killing of the state. That is why he doesn't want to be identified with it again. He said because the security men will not take instruction from him. That is the governor of Zamfara State. So, Mr. President, distinguished colleague, for us to be sincere with ourselves, to also be seen, every Nigerian as a nation and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, let us take this bold step, at least for once. We are looking for a way forward to stem the tides of killings in our nation. If tomorrow they come here again, another senator stand up and said they've killed almost 100 people in this constituency, we will all come up, stand up for 1 minute silence, and also start condemning. The solution out of this logjam that we have found ourselves is let us just go ahead, amend the Constitution, make sure we accommodate state policing and local policing, and then we can move forward from there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Barnabas Kimade, Benue Northeast Senatorial District. Mr. President, let me join you and my colleagues in our deep sympathies with Plateau State for this most recent gruesome murder of several innocent people in that state, in the communities where this thing took place. It is a shame indeed that we continue to talk and talk about security. I can't even count the number of times I've had to make motions on this matter or speak on motions made by my colleagues. And it's appearing to be a sharp divide between the legislators of Nigeria and the people in the executive branch of our government, where one side is constantly making condemnation of an event, and another side is constantly trying to defend those who are supposed to do something about it. And there seems to be no headway where we are going. I think we must come to a point where in unison we take one directional approach on this issue and deal with this problem once and for all. It is not by constant deniability of the executive branch in telling us what this is not. All you always hear is that no, that is not a religious killing, or that is not a tribal killing, or that is not a community killing. That is not. So what is it? They're not telling us what it is. Those whose responsibility is to guide lives in this country are not telling us what these killings are. Why do you quickly tell us what is not, and you don't tell us what it is? Those who come around communities and kill people in the night are not ghosts. They are human beings. In a few instances, they have caught some people. In the first place, there are too few to be doing the kind of thing that we see them doing. When there's a massacre of nearly 200 people, they will arrest some 2 or 3 funny-looking guys and say, these are the people who did this job. And yet, we never find what is done with them. I keep saying in Zamfara one day, 200 people were killed. How can just a handful of 2 or 3 people go and kill 200 people and slaughter them? This killing in Plateau must have been masterminded, and it's a whole army that came to do this kind of deed. Not the 3 or 4 people that were arrested. And nothing is happening to them. And unless we agree that as a country we take responsibility for the offices that we hold. We were not elected in parliament to come and condemn actions in this nation. And people are appointed to government to come and defend what is wrong. We must get to a point to deal with this issue. And I don't think, without wasting much time, because so many people have spoken, I think we need to deal with this issue decisively. People who ought to take action and are not taking action must be shown the way out of the offices they occupy. And we as legislators must seize the bull by the horns and call a national summit of all legislators and amend the Constitution in one fell swoop to deal with this issue and give every community the ability to defend itself. The police are the ones who are supposed to guide us, and if national police is only defending what is happening rather than guiding us, then every community should have the capacity to have its own police. And if first, second, and third readings and public hearing and vetting in the state houses or assembly is going to take ages to be done, let's call a summit where all the assemblies of Nigeria come into one place and we sit down and deal with this amendment and establish police so that those who are capable should establish police to hold guns officially under the law. Otherwise, those who are holding guns illegally have a superiority over those who have legal opportunity to hold guns and are being protected. So, Mr. President, I submit in total support of this motion. I submit in total support that we must do something drastic about getting communities and states to defend themselves. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. President, my well-respected colleague, Senator Waziri Garba Marafa, representative of our Central. Mr. President, let me start by commiserating with the people of Plateau State over this very ugly incident. And the people of Nigeria in general, because anybody killed in any state, anywhere in Nigeria is in Nigeria. Like the various speakers said, what happened in Plateau State is quite condemnable and should not be tolerated. The life of one person is worth putting all the resources of the state to defend. But, Mr. Speaker, before I go on, let me say I am one of the, Mr. President, sorry, that stood here on the floor of this Senate to canvass support of my colleagues to include Plateau State in the Northeast Development Commission at that time, because honestly speaking, I believe Plateau State deserved being a member of that commission more than Taraba State, which is in the Northeast. Having said this, Mr. President, but speakers after speaker didn't say one thing. Equally condemnable is the attitude of the people of Plateau State when there is a problem like this in Plateau State. I commiserate with my senior brother, Senator Aleru, for losing a fine gentleman as an aftermath of the crisis that happened in Plateau State. Innocent people passing by were stopped and hacked to death. Videos that you cannot even watch. Travelers stopped in a vehicle, killed on the street, and somebody coming with a dagger to stab them multiple stabs on their backs to ensure that these people are dead. I think we need to call on Plateau State, and this is not the first time that this thing is happening. It's equally condemnable and it must stop, because those people are not responsible for the act that happened in Plateau State. Mr. President, secondly, is the UK Parliament. Yes, UK Parliament, I want to commend them equally for bringing to the fore the issues happening in Nigeria. But Mr. President, the House of Lords fell flat on its face when they gave the issue religious coloration. UK Parliament or United Kingdom as a country is a mother to Nigeria, and they should be concerned with the happenings in Nigeria. This issue was never discussed in UK Parliament. Mr. President, I make bold to say, the killings in Zamfara are 100 times the killings in both Kaduna, Taraba, and Plateau States. It has never been discussed in the UK Parliament. And I listened carefully to the mover of the motion when he listed all the villages. He even said the member of House of Representatives that sent him the clip. I know of many people that forwarded these killings in Zamfara State, Mr. President, and they have never been discussed. I think it is not in the best interest of the UK if Nigeria is dismembered. Mr. President, I see conspiracy in all these things that are happening. Conspiracy in the sense that, Mr. President, I stood here to say that let us give, and that was the day my colleague and brother, Senator Adoke brought his motion. Mr. President, what is happening in Nigeria is an issue that we all need to open our eyes, shine our eyes, and look at it squarely and give it the name it deserves. This Plenary herdsmen killing this or that cannot take us anywhere, because that is not the truth. Mr. President, like I said, over 10,000 people are killed in Zamfara State. Zamfara State is about 99.9 Muslims. So naturally, it is Muslims that are going to be killed. Why is not everybody making case about that one? Why was it not given any religious coloration? Plateau State is predominantly Christians. So if people are killed in Plateau, naturally Christians will be killed. Then we sit down and say Christians are being eliminated, it's genocide, it is homicide, it is this or that. Mr. President, this is hypocrisy. And anybody calling it, I said here, we ought to give this thing the name it deserves. The killings in Zamfara, some people are being arrested. They are not all entirely foreigners. They are not entirely Fulanis. And I make bold to say that the killings happening in Plateau State is happening with the conjunction of indigenous of Plateau State, because this thing is a business. And that is the truth of the matter. But every day, we either give it ethnic coloration or religious coloration, without minding the fact that these things are being done and we are the losers. Why? Because you never know who is going to traverse a road, to pass from one place to other. While the governor of Zamfara State was in Plateau State to commiserate with the governor in company of 10 other governors, Mr. President, after renouncing his constitutional responsibility of being the chief security officer of Zamfara State, Mr. President, at that very hour, people are being killed in Zamfara State. Between that day to yesterday, more than the number killed in Plateau were killed in Zamfara, but nobody is saying anything. Why? Because Zamfara has no father, no mother, nobody cares about what happens in Zamfara. Mr. President, I think it is time, when the governor announced the resignation, Mr. President, even in this debate, only one person made a passing remark about it. That is a major, it's a constitutional breach. For somebody to renounce being the security officer of his state, while he's still being the governor of the state, spending the state resources, spending security votes of that state, and we are holding a very serious debate on this matter, and nobody is saying that this thing is condemnable, it's unconstitutional, because it is from the state. Mr. President, I think we need to look at this thing more seriously and do the needful. UK Parliament, I want to use this medium to call on them to remain as the fathers they are. Let them look at the problems of Nigeria. It's beyond Christianity. The Christians and Muslim clerics that are giving this thing religious coloration are all hypocrites, because we all know where they belong to. It's not limited to only one religion. We have seen the Muslim clerics calling people names. We have seen the clerics, Christian clerics giving people names. But at the end of the day, these problems are not solved. Mr. President, I say, and I want to repeat, what is happening in Nigeria today is a serious business, and it has links with people, and those people need to be pitched out, and part of the solution to this thing, this Senate must come with a resolution that will say penalize whoever is concerned in this matter. Mr. President, I've been a resident in Kaduna State for over 30 years. Mr. President, the beginning of this, most of this crisis you are seeing is when genocide was perpetrated in Kaduna State, in Zango Katab in particular. A commission of inquiry was instituted by the then federal military government, and under the chairmanship of a minority from Rivers State. And the action was so ungodly that the chairman or the committee found some people guilty and condemned them to death. But because of some political reasons, the then president reduced the sentence from death penalty to 25 years imprisonment. And after these people were set free. And that was the beginning of this. Because I'm not a Nigerian, I am more informed about that situation than you. You can stand up and say you are on. Anyway, Mr. President, I'm addressing the chair, please. So if you are given the opportunity, you can. Mr. President, that is the beginning of what we are seeing today. We must be very honest. Now, if we want to turn this tide, we must encourage whoever is in the position of authority to punish without fear or favor anybody found wanting in the killing. But you cannot take lives of others that are innocent. All the killings that happened in Zamfara, nobody has ever heard of anybody afraid of transversing the road from Zaria to Sokoto because of fear of reprisal attacks. But people are being afraid of traversing this road every day and every now and then, because there is always one spot of problem in the area or the other. And people go scot-free. Nothing happens. Those that kill their own people, like I said, is condemnable, are not punished. And those that kill on the street are not punished. And where do we go from there? Mr. President, we need to look at it. Then lastly, Mr. President, the issue of state police. And that is why I said I am always skeptical about happenings in Nigeria. Yes, at a point I was against the state police. At another point, I saw reason for the state police. But now that these things are stepping up, suddenly we are bringing the issue of creating state police. Mr. President, I agree with various speakers, including the federal government. But before we create state police, Mr. President, I have never had one state chief executive that either come out or came out or complained to anybody that he has given instructions to the commissioner of police of that state, his state, or to the military officer to carry out. I have never had one. What I hear, please address the chair.
There are so many.
Mr. President, this only reinforces my belief that these things are being orchestrated by some people so that they can have their constitutional amendment to have the state police. Because if, yes, I want one person in my state, please, I have the floor. Well, I am abusing it because I'm abusing your interest, because it doesn't serve the interest of my people. Yes, you have the right to call for what you want. Mr. President, I want protection. I want protection. Mr. President, I want protection. Mr. President, this is a grand agenda by you people that want to state police, and you are... Mr. President, I want protection.
Senator Marafa, Senator Marafa, everybody has contributed to this topic. So try and ensure that your contribution is in a manner that does not increase this. So round up. You are closing up.
Thank you.
Point of order. DSP.
No.
DSP. Point of order.
You know, we are living in very dangerous times now. There are certain things we say here and we may not actually understand the implications. Because he's saying now that those who are pushing for state police are behind what is going on so they can have their way. That's what he said. That's what he said. That's what he said. Because under our rule, said no senator shall impute improper motive to any other senator. I said it because I don't want to get out of this place and somebody arrest me because I'm talking about state police and they said I'm responsible for the killings. That is not true. So he has to withdraw that, sir.
Point of order is sustained. Senator Kabir Marafa, kindly withdraw that statement.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. President. With utmost respect to the DSP, if what I said imputes an improper motive to the contributions he made and some other people made, I sincerely regret it, because I said ab initio that I'm even confused. At a point here, I know in the 7th Assembly, there was a heated debate about the formation of state police or not. At a point I supported, at a point I rejected. But at this point when it is coming back again, Mr. President, my suggestion, maybe I'm a little bit ahead of them. I agree with the submission of Senator Barnabas Gamadi. People cannot be slaughtered in their houses helplessly. Maybe what we need to do is liberalize gun control. Let everybody own his gun, so that when you are coming to my house, you know that I have my own gun while you are coming with your own, because the only strength these people have is because they carry their guns. Mr. President, I'm preparing my own type of solution. Yes, that is one, Mr. President. Number two, Mr. President, we need to look at, honestly speaking, of imposition of state of emergency in states where these happenings are going on. And in doing so, we must do, well, you can say so, we must look at the state of emergency. Some people call for the head of the federal government. I don't know what that means. So I'm telling you, when Chief Obasanjo put state of emergency in one state, almost all the states of the Federation stood up and were responsible to their responsibilities in their state. Mr. President, these killings are enough. I am coming from a state where these things happen every day. And when I stood up here to say that 65% of Zamfara state is under the control of bandits, a lot of people felt I was just playing politics. Today, these things are coming to fruition. So, Mr. President, I want us, in taking this decision, we look at these things holistically and realistically and do the needful and call a spade a spade. But the moment we continue to put politics into this issue, put religion, tribalism, then we are just seeing the beginning of this problem. Mr. President, I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. I think we've So if we can just go to the prayers. We have 4 prayers here. Before we go to the prayers, I'll just try as much as possible to summarize some of the key issues so that they can help us if we look at some of the prayers and for additional prayers where it's necessary. It is clear we've talked about the fact that whether there were initial action of aggression or there are reprisals, either way it is totally unacceptable, and we must condemn it in totality that it is. And I think that is crucial. Secondly, these are acts of criminality, and we should not encourage any other coloration to it, be it religious, be it, this is criminality. And as such, we have a role to ensure that we must address this criminality aspect and see how we can fight it. We've spoken on many platforms and made suggestions to the part of the executive on the fact that we believe that there is need for urgent review of the security architecture. And somebody did mention that the debate in the House of Lords also raises one point. How do we think our economy, there will be investment with this kind of climate? It cannot happen. So we must see it not only from the point of view that there's danger to security, there's also danger if we really believe that we want to push our economy, it will just become stagnant. So my view is, as we go to the prayers, we as Senate must come up with our own actions as well. I don't think we need to flog the issue. We have told the executive what they need to do. We have told them in private. We have told them in public. But we on our own part, what do we need to do? Because I see 3 issues here that has come up in discussion. We've talked about things that we've had the address from the security agents chiefs that came here on the issue of coordination of security. We have our own report from the summit that we need to consider and deal with. We've had the comments from the DSP on the issue of state police. We have a bill on police reform bill that's due for second reading and passage. We have, even in the other paper today, the composition of the Police Service Commission. Some have suggested the issue of truth and reconciliation. I think there are things, when we take the prayers, I would like us to take things that are within our control. Let us play our own part and address the ones that are within our control. I want us to look at that when we start taking the prayers. And I think also as part of leadership of the National Assembly, we also need to pay a visit to Zamfara State. I think that, I think I thought you went there as the ad hoc committee that we set up. I think it was as chairman of the ad hoc committee, not as part of our leadership. I don't think so. I don't think neither myself or DSP or you have actually gone as the Senate on this. I think we need to do that. That's the point I'm making. So let's go to prayers. There are 4 prayers here. Prayer 1 says, condemn the terror attack, mass killings, and displacement of the people and occupation of their ancestral homes and farmlands. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. Guys have it. Prayer 2, urge the executive arm of government to overhaul the security architecture of the country and in place a better security action plan that will decisively tackle violent terror attacks threatening the continuous existence of communities in the north central geopolitical zone and indeed Nigeria. Those in favor of prayer, amendment, yes,
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to amend the second prayer. Overhaul the security architecture in such a way that if violence happens in a particular location, the security agents and local leaders
should be held responsible. That's what I propose, Mr. President.
Can't we put that as a separate prayer? Because that's talking about community. That's the point you want to introduce there. Why don't you, under additional prayer, just have a prayer? Okay, yeah.
We are talking about overhauling the security architecture of the country. And in doing so, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, a group will include that if violence occurs in a particular location, the security agents assigned to secure that area and together with the community leaders should be held responsible.
What if they don't know anything about it? I'm a community leader.
We are assigning the responsibility. Some people even suggested that there should be local policy.
They are not the same.
They are the same. We are talking about community policy. If we are talking about community policy, it also includes involving the traditional institutions.
Okay, any second as well. All right, let me put the question there, prayer 2. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. There is a prayer 3. Further urge the executive arm of government to undertake the rehabilitation of displaced persons and the reconstruction of victims and communities in Plateau North and Central District to enable them to return to their ancestral homes and farmlands. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. There is a prayer 4. Urge the executive arm of government to strengthen the criminal justice administration system with a view to bringing perpetrators to justice. Those in favor of prayer 4 say aye. Yes, amendment, yes.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to amend the first prayer to read, apprehend and prosecute all the perpetrators and promoters of violence, no matter how highly placed they are. Because this is what has been missing. Yes. Investigate, apprehend, prosecute all the perpetrators and sponsors of violence, no matter how highly placed they are. Because this will serve as a deterrent to other sponsors of violence in the country. Thank you.
I second the amendment.
President,
my name is Senator Abu Ibrahim, representing the South. I second the amendment just moved by Senator Alero.
So the prayer 4 is amendment to read as such, that urge the executive arm of government to investigate, apprehend, and prosecute all the sponsors and perpetrators of these acts of violence, no matter how highly placed they are. Those in favor of prayer 4 as amended say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Additional prayers. Yes, Senator Yai Ajala.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleague. In line with the earlier submission of the President of the Senate, that we as a body should start looking at what we can do to assist in putting an end to this incessant killing. On that note, I propose that this Senate should commission the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments with immediate effect to put machinery in motion with the intention of amending the existing constitution to accommodate the creation of state and community police. I so move.
Any second, Professor Ade?
I humbly second the proposal to very quickly, for the sake of preventing the collapse of Nigeria, to amend the constitution to allow the state police to be created, because the evidence as of today is that the central police is a colossal failure.
Distinguished colleagues, while doing this, these additional prayer, I just want to request, if you remember when the NSA came here, he also talked about this issue of coordination of the security agencies, and I think that also, I think it requires constitutional amendment as well. Should we take a separate prayer? Okay, all right. Okay, so let's take this prayer then. There's a prayer. Let's take this one. The Senate should direct its Constitutional Review Committee to immediately bring forward an amendment to the Constitution as regards to creation of state and community police. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer, DSP.
Additional prayer, sir. Further to the submission of Senator Aliero, sir. I would like to propose as additional prayer that the National Assembly should, as a matter of urgency, enact a law providing for a peace, tolerance and reconciliation commission, to help deal with issues of communal, religious and sectoral conflicts in any part of the country.
Second.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to support the additional prayer proposed by the Deputy Senate President. There should be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission that will discuss on how the various ethnic groups could live in peace and harmony with one another all over the Federation.
Yes, Senator Shields, any information?
Information. Mr. President, I want to bring the attention of the hallowed chamber here. There is before this Senate a bill on the National Commission for Peace and Reconciliation, which is a recommendation even by the United Nations that member nations should be able to have that kind of commission. So the bill has just passed its second reading. So I just want to bring the attention of the Senate, please.
Are we taking this as a second reading? It has. But I think I've seen it. I think there's a bill like that actually. Okay, so when are you? So it's a fast track it then. Okay. So we will say that the Senate, as a matter of urgency, should fast track the passage of the Peace and Reconciliation Bill. Yes? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer. Yes, Senator Issa Michelle.
Mr. President, thank you very much. My additional prayer is for the security agencies to stop involving themselves in politics. Because if you look at it, part of the problems we are having today, a lot of our security agencies, they are participating actively in politics. They have, because some of them, they have even become like a political party. As long as our security chiefs or our security men are involved deeply in politics, we will continue to have problems. So my additional prayer is for the security agencies to stop participating or involving themselves in politics, because they should leave politics, they should stick to their professional standard. Professional. Yeah. Mr. President, yes, what I'm saying is for the security agencies to have their allegiance to the constitution and to the people, not involving themselves in politics. As long as we allow our security men to involve in politics, we will continue to have such problems. So it's for them to stick directly to their professional allegiance, that is to the constitution and to the people. As long as they differ from that, we will continue to have that problem.
Distinguished colleagues, there's a prayer which I think we need to address so that we can put a time frame to some of these issues. One, there's this peace and reconciliation bill we just talked about. There's the police reform bill, and then there's this amendment to the Constitution. Can we agree on a time frame where we want these bills passed and we want this Constitution amendment brought forward? Because keeping it open, I think it does not show the sense of urgency that we need to apply. So I think some guidance here. One, we've told the Constitutional Committee to come up with a bill for the amendment of Constitution for state and community, time frame. Peace and reconciliation, police reform, time frame by which we must bring it here for final third reading. So can I get some guidance? Yes, Senator Gemari.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we should go on a 2 weeks time frame so that the remaining 1 week before we go on break, these things will be settled. So that we go on the long vacation when all of these have been passed. Thank you.
So I will take that as proposed by Senator Gamade and seconded by DSP, and I'll put the question then. So the question is that the Senate hereby directs that the bill for peace and reconciliation, police reform bill, should be passed within the next 2 weeks, and that the Constitutional Review Committee within the next 2 weeks should bring forward the amendment for state and community police. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. That's how it. DSP, you have not come back on this issue of the NSA that you said we should take separately.
I spoke with the clerk of the Senate because there are some information which he was supposed to help us get from Itagiwa, which they have not supplied us. As soon as we have that, I'll come up with the bills.
Okay, any other additional prayer before we? Yes, Senator John Jumala.
Additional prayers. Thank you, Mr. President. Additional prayers. All the affected areas with the IDP's houses should be reconstructed for the IDP people to go back to their houses.
They're already in prayer 3. It's already covered in prayer 3. Yeah. Senator Marafa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very sorry what I'm going to say may affect one of your.
Nothing to say. It's a prayer. So if you keep yourself line of a prayer, nothing to say.
I'm going to do the prayer. I'm just preparing your mind, sir.
No, there's no prayer. Just say the prayer. No. I want your prayer. Just give me your prayer. The prayer of debate is over.
Condemn in very strong terms the action of the Zamfara state government for resigning the position of chief security officer of the state while still remaining a governor. So this Senate to call on him to resign or to withdraw that statement, apologize to the people of Zamfara and the people of Nigeria. This is very, very important, my distinguished colleagues. Somebody cannot just sit down and say...
Senator Marafa, it was a prayer. Yeah, finish the prayer. So, okay, good. Any seconder? None. Thank you. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President. No, I've been called to lead the Senate. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, before I say anything, let me congratulate us and also appeal to us and ask for more questions. What we have for today will only be first reading and the request of Mr. President on the Police Service Commission confirmation. So we don't have any more to debate. Tomorrow. So I seek for your indulgence, please.
Tomorrow.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, The first business of the day is the presentation of a house standing in my name on the Chartered Institute of Commodity Brokers, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Chartered Institute of Commodity Brokers Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, HB 528, first reading.
Chartered Institute of Commodity Brokers Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, HB 528, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is also the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Chartered Institute of Training and Development Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Chartered Institute of Training and Development Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, HB 401, first reading.
Chartered Institute of Training and Development Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, HB 401, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is also the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Small and Medium Scale Development Agency Act 2003, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Small and Medium Scale Development Agency Act 2003, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018, HB 803, first reading.
Small and Medium Scale Development Agency Act 2003, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018, HB 803, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Information and National Orientation on the Agency for National Ethics and Values Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, the chairman is not around, so I move that we stand down the consideration of that report till another legislative day. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am the minority leader, while the Senate leader is the opposition leader. So I hereby second the motion.
Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of the annual report of the Auditor General for the Federation on the accounts of the Federation of Nigeria for the year ended 31st December 2018 and 16 in accordance with Section 85, Subsection 2 and Subsection 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Mr. President, with your permission, I therefore wish to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion, heavily moved by the Senate leader, that the Senate do receive the report. That's so second.
Those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Judge General for the Federation on the accounts of the Federation of Nigeria for the year ended 31st December 2016. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Leader, come and lay the report, please. The reports refer to public accounts. Leader of Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. Presidency in C for the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons for appointment as chairman and members of the Police Service Commission in accordance with Section 153, 1M and 154, 1 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The names are 1. Ms. Liu Adiola Kumbi Smith, CFR MSc FNIM, FWC Chairman, Southwest. 2. Justice Clara Bata Ogumbi, full-time Commissioner, Northeast. 3. Lowell Bauer, AG retired CON MNI, full-time Commissioner, Northwest. 4. Muhammad H. Najatu, Member, Northwest. 5. Brimo Adogame, Austin, Member, South-South. 6. Barrister Ron Imom, Member, North Central. And 7. Dr. Mkemka Oshimiri Jumbo Ofo, Member, Southeast. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of Mr. President CNC to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President CNC be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion moved by the leader that the Senate do refer Mr. President's nominees to the appropriate committee for further legislative action, while noting that the two full-time commissioners are from Northeast and Northwest. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the request to refer to appropriate committee say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. This is referred to Police Affairs Committee. Report back in 2 weeks. Report back in 1 week. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having come this far, Mr. President, I believe that we have done quite well and quite a lot. I will therefore move that we stand down the consideration of all other items on the order paper till another legislative day. I so move.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that we stand down the other items to another legislative day. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion, those stand down other items on the other paper to another legislative day say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I will stood down the items on the other legislative paper. I hereby adjourn the Senate to Wednesday, 4th of July, 2018, 10 a.m. prompt.
It's been we'll be talking more on what was celebrated today. Distinguished sir, you were explicit, concise and precise while you came under Order 42 talking about constituency projects. I watched you while I was in the studio, and of course I was actually satisfied with the deliberations. Sir, do you think that to measure with the number of legislators we have, that the impact of this constituency project is actually felt?
Of course, yes. The phenomena of constituency project is an instrument of good governance. The Making Appropriation Act is a duty that the legislature and the executive must work in unison to achieve. The cooperation between the two arms of government to achieve this has always been very difficult. Where the executive branch proposes appropriation bill and brings to the National Assembly, and the Parliament passes it into Appropriation Act, it is necessary that effort must always be made to achieve participation of both sides to ensure good governance. And this instrumentation of constituency project was brought about to ensure that this happens. And it's the only thing that we use to achieve participation of both the executive branch and the legislature in making the budget for the nation.
Sir, this is what you felt saddened that the people are here to understand the method of operation of this called constituency project by the legislators. So do you know that there is a forum, an avenue where you can actually showcase yourself? Well, we have the National Assembly television. If it be, how do you assent to this?
Well, I think that would be a very good idea. In fact, a very wonderful idea for that matter. It is all about cost, because constituency project does not really put money in the pocket of the legislator. Otherwise, it would have been good for them to sponsor physical site visits by the NTA or media to go and actually showcase these constituency projects.
Sir, I'm talking of the National Assembly televisions.
Well, your television is localized here. I don't think I've ever seen you go to various constituencies to go and see things there. But if you can raise a good budget for your work, it would be a good idea to actually cover this event and come and show on National Assembly television in order that Nigerians know what is going on. Otherwise, those who deceive Nigerians are having a field day by constantly running down the parliament by talking evil about constituency projects, which are really the only things that the local people, feel the presence of central government when they see these various small projects, classrooms, water boreholes, transformers, and things of this nature done in their own communities. The media leader of the National Assembly, Senator Abdullahi, I think he should do something about whatever happens in your own department so that you'll be able to cover this.
Thank you so very much. That has been Distinguished Senator Gimade giving us, of course, intellectual contribution. Now I have here with me another senator that will be giving us an input on security. Distinguished sir, you were right in the chamber while they spoke on this insecurity of a thing. You will agree with me that insecurity has become a door-to-door slogan in Nigeria. And it's, of course, it's obvious that the Deputy Senate President soon will be coming with the state policing bill. Sir Ayons, do you think that this will go a long way to actually stop this incessant killing?
Well, thank you very much. But I think let us not even begin to, pick out what will be relevant. I can see you are already picking out the issue of state police. I think the issue of the insecurity goes beyond the issue of state police. And what we have discussed here today showed very clearly that our hearts are very heavy. Heavy in the sense that the killings have become too rampant, and like Mr. President also said, that he's deeply troubled by the level of killings going on in the country. And while we were on recess, you recall the two presiding officers with Mr. President, where he briefed them on his desire to actually overhaul and restructure the security formation So I think what we have done here is to, deepen that debate so that we will come up with issues that we believe would help Mr. President to achieve, that objective of, restructuring and overhauling the security architecture of this country. And the most important point I would like Nigerians to take note is the fact that we are deeply troubled and worried on one very, very fundamental question. What is the value of life? Life is so valued because it has no duplicate. You can't manufacture it. It is divine. It is given by God. And for me, for example, as a Muslim, I'm told if you take one life and snuff it out of one person, it's as if you have killed the whole of humanity. So I think the point I want to make here is we should value life in Nigeria. There are countries that we are always in a hurry to make comparison with. And when we make comparison with them, we try to condemn our own system. But then, these countries, when one person dies, even in an accident, in a particular location, there will be no peace for that particular area until they are able to address the reason for that accident leading to that death. So I think the point we are making here is we must put a premium on people's life because Nigerian citizens have given us this as a trust. All of us, we are acting on trust. All of us. Anybody who is acting in government capacity, all of us, the Constitution, they've donated all these powers to us via the Constitution. And I think what the Senate has discussed here today is to say that we must put a premium on life and we must begin to take issues having to do with our citizens' life very seriously. And so in the suggestions and recommendations we have made, far-reaching recommendations have been made. We are going to debate some of them. We've already set time frame for some of them. And of course the issue of state police is one of them. And how it is going to be, the nature of the state police are the debates that we are going to begin to get, going forward. Because there are proponents, there are opponents. But what is important at the end of the day is that we are in agreement that we must tinker with the security infrastructure in such a way that when anything happens in a state, the critical stakeholders in that state must be held accountable and they must be able to respond because they have been so empowered legally and authoritatively.
Distinguished, thank you so very much. It has been, of course, a very beautiful time with Distinguished Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi. Well, this is all we can take on this program today. We do hope that you live in peace. But before we go away, I just want to drop this on your table. Let's be united. Let's shun violence and live in harmony. That's the only way Nigeria can thrive. Until we come again, I'm Christy Ewodagi from Lance Television. Goodbye.